Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown, Andrew Velez, and this is now episode 166. In this episode, we debate whether or not Devin Booker is a top MVP candidate, if the Miami Heat are imploding, Tom Thibodeau's future with the Knicks, and talk March Madness and top prospects with Ryan Hammer. A quick Patreon shout out to G Boog, Kobe, Jeremiah, Dylan, Afosa, Mason, Rico, Gentile, Drew, Cade MVP, Mark, SP4Z Shot, Jordan, Evan, Dylan, Joel is the GOAT, Mayo, Andre, Matthew, Peter, Daniel, Biggie Boston Boy, Ben O'Reilly, Mickey, William, Tyler, Ruthless Rootster, Sensei Stevie, Joel B, SA Crimes, Kevin S, Eagle, Dalla, Tizzy, Corey, Get Funkoed, Dylan, Playboy Dom, Orlando, Big Chuck, Michael, Greg, Cole, Liam, T. Grove, Tua Sucks on Ka, Ryan, Epic Lankiness, Travis Ball, Aaron, It's Black Ace, Anthony, BJ, PJs, Langston, Jazzy Juice, Johannes, Ruben, Dave, Muffins, John, Sean Triplet, Burner Hoops, Court Cousins, P. Dot, George, Hikari, Mateen, and Jay Aqua.
Good old Jay Aqua, man. Let's get into it.
And can't forget about Monster. Shout out to Monster.
Shout out.
I be forgetting the YouTube shout outs and the YouTube subscribers.
Give a shout out to Maury is a fraudulent GM also for beating me in the fantasy basketball championship. Hell of a duel, man.
Oh, you just shouted
Congratulations.
him out.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So shout out to everybody. And it's gonna be a great episode. We actually have we have things to do today. So we are recording this episode. Then we're going to the Elite Eight in Philadelphia. We're gonna drive there. It's gonna be a little road trip with Drew, Riv, and I. And we're gonna watch St. Peter's play UNC.
Jersey, baby.
Hopefully Jersey gets this
Stand
win.
the fuck up.
Let's make history.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And we're all lamped up.
We need it.
You know, you burped before the podcast.
I did.
But you burped under your breath very respectfully.
Because I am a respectable human being.
Riv burped very loud. So
Disgusting.
my dad has a sensitive stomach. And I tend, when I'm at my house, I tend to burp out loud. I'm not respectful about it. I'm very obnoxious
You're
about it.
in your own house. It's
exactly.
all right.
That's what I said to my dad. My dad's like, "Can you stop that?" And he's like, "It's just disgusting." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm just in my house chilling. I'm burping." And I just want to ask you, that's normal to burp obnoxiously at your house?
Listen, you're talking to one of the most gassy individuals that I know. I'm letting it fly. I don't care. If I'm in my house and I'm with people that I know and I love, they gotta accept me for who I am.
I told my dad, I was like, "What's the difference if it comes out from my mouth or my ass?" Because if
one
I
smells
fart,
way worse.
You're right, but if I don't try to hold in my fart when I'm with my dad or with my family, I just let it rip.
Does your dad let it rip?
Yes.
All right,
I think for me it's a little different because it's a lot of women in my house, so I try not to do
that's
stuff
so courteous of you,
yeah,
bro.
it's my mom, my grandma, and my sister, so I try not to do obnoxious stuff.
Real gentleman.
But when they're not there, oh man, it smells ridiculous. I'm violent, burping loud, farting loud. Or if I'm around my dad, I don't care.
This is a weird question, but when you're in your bed, you're laying down, you're about to go to sleep, and you start farting, do you smell under the covers?
I used to do that when I was younger.
No, but the worst is when you're stuck in a position for dumb long and then you turn over and then like the smell hits you all at once.
Yo, bro, have y'all ever farted in the shower and it smells absolutely fucking like I did it one time by accident. I'm like, yo, like the way it came so fast.
The
I'm like,
particles get stuck
bro.
in the vapor.
Like I had to get out the shower for a little bit because I was like, bro, nah, I can't stand in here, man.
Yeah,
it smells crazy in here, bro. Like that's the worst smell ever. Like I don't like that.
So we got a jam-packed show today. We're gonna have Ryan Hammer, who talks a lot about college basketball on the show, to talk about March Madness and some top prospects. But we're gonna start off the show first before we get into the first topic. You guys may notice that JC is not here. He is not going to be on future episodes. Unfortunately, he's backed up. He just got a new job. He's been very busy, has a lot going on, and he respectfully told me through text that, you know, he really is not able to do the show that often. So because of that, we don't know when's the next time he's going to be on, but for the time being, just plan on him not being on future episodes. So let's get on to the first segment of this show. Devin Booker recently has been getting a lot of MVP push. Moran is coming out and he's saying, he's my MVP. He's been winning. Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Fame point guard, not the one that plays for the Hornets, was like, Devin Booker, he should be MVP. So I want to ask you guys, is Devin Booker a top MVP candidate? And what I mean by that, I know top can be very vague. What I mean by that, would you put him in the top 3?
I wouldn't. I think the top 3 has been a 3-man race since damn near the beginning of the year. Giannis, Embiid, the Joker. I think those are the 3 guys that'll probably end the year strong. But I think Devin Booker definitely deserves to be top 5. You know, I think right after that should be either him and Tatum or him and Luka. But I don't think those two, like, I think to leave him out the top 5 is kind of crazy. And it really is, because the MVP doesn't have a real definition to it. The award doesn't. Because if we're talking about who's most valuable, you take that person off the team, what is it? Then I can understand the argument for the top 3 guys in front of him. You know, the Joker, we know. If he's off the team, they suck. Mm-hmm. They're horrible. Embiid, you could probably make the argument that they're not good. Although Harden being there, it could change a little bit. Giannis, they're probably a playing team maybe, or not a playoff team. But I feel like for Devin Booker, his argument is, I'm the best player on the best team in the league by a wide margin. Like, this is a team that's been dominant. Like, people love to credit Boston Celtics for their run in the last 2 months. Phoenix has been doing this for the last 4 or 5 months. Like, this has been an all-year thing. So I think he definitely has a case to be in that conversation. I think he definitely has a case to put you can stack his numbers against, for example, a guy like Jason Tatum or John Morant. They're similar. He's winning more than both of those guys. So I think he definitely deserves to be in that top 5. I wouldn't put him in the top 3, though. But 4 or 5 for me, he should be there automatically.
You definitely can make the case for Devin Booker being in the MVP race. You look at it like this. Players in NBA history to average 25, 5, and 5. Shout out to StatMuse for this great stat. 25, 5, and 5 with an 800 record or better. Larry Bird in 85-86, Jordan 91-92, Barkley 92-93, LeBron 08-09, LeBron 12-13, Steph 15-16, Steph 17-18, Harden 17-18, Giannis 19-20, and then Booker this season. Now, every player I listed outside of Steph in the 17-18 season, because they simply could not give him that award given the fact that KD just joined the squad. No, I'm saying, but the year before that, yes. All of them had won the MVP. So you have to have him in that conversation, especially with everything you listed out. They have been the best team over the length of the NBA season consistently. However, if we're throwing in Devin Booker, in my honest opinion, you need to throw in Jason Tatum as well. Jason Tatum has been a prolific scorer this season. For the fact that they were a mediocre team at one point in time during the season, and to now be one of the best, if not arguably the best team in the NBA, that deserves a little bit of credit, in my opinion.
Can I ask you a quick question? Does 2 months of being great deserve more credit than a season of being elite?
It depends on the situation. In my opinion, you look at the Suns. They're essentially the same roster from last season. With a few changes, obviously you added JaVale McGee to that mix. The Celtics had a brand new head coach, different lineup changes that they were experiencing throughout the beginning of the season. It was hard for each individual to find their role, their each individual role. It took them coming together. It took close to a falling out for them to finally realize, all right, if we want to become a winning basketball team, we each need to identify what our strengths are, and we need to really thrive in that role. After Jaylen Brown tweeted a shift is coming, I sense a shift in the air. The Celtics have been a completely different ball team, have been the best team in the East since that span of games. The only team that you can really put on their level right now is the Phoenix Suns. And it all starts with the play of Jason Tatum, both offensively and defensively.
I'm torn with this topic. And the reason I'm torn with this topic is because that stat by StatMuse is excellent. And it highlights how the MVP has been awarded in years past. Usually, the MVP has always been the best player on the best team in the NBA. Westbrook ruined it in 2017 when he won MVP because he averaged a triple-double. Jokic last season, the only reason he won is because Joel Embiid got hurt. Had Joel Embiid been there the entire season, Philadelphia, the 1 seed with his stats, he's the MVP. Because of that, it's hard for me to say Devin Booker doesn't deserve this award. But then you look at the flip side, and how many people complain year in and year out about the criteria of the MVP award and how it's awarded? I, for one, am somebody who has complained about it with previous winners.
Me too.
Giannis in 2019, he won because his team won 60 games, were the first seed, but Harden won 54, was averaging 35 points per game, and Chris Paul was hurt, so was Capella, and Harden had to carry that team, and he was making history. I thought he deserved it that year, despite Giannis being the best player on the best team in basketball. You look at another year with James Harden in 2015. Steph Curry won the award. I thought Harden was better than him that year, and he led a Houston Rockets team to the second seed, despite not having the same roster quality as Steph Curry. Because of that, maybe we're moving into a new era of how we award the MVP. Maybe it's not about being the best player on the best team anymore, but simply being the best player of the year, the most like what it's supposed to be, the most valuable player in the NBA, the best player in the NBA. Devin Booker has the box score stats, 26 points per game, around 5 assists, close to 6. 6 of the last 7 MVPs led the NBA in PER. 11 of the last 13 have done that. Devin Booker is not even top 10 in PER. When we talk about advanced stats alone, Devin Booker is nowhere near any of the top guys like Embiid, Giannis, Joker, Luka, LeBron,
Steph.
Devin Booker is nowhere near that. I think Devin Booker's MVP case doesn't become a case anymore when we can say and back up with facts that he's not the most valuable player on his team. It's Chris Paul. I think Devin Booker is the best, but he's not the most valuable player on his team. It's Chris Paul. And I had Chris Paul as my MVP at midseason. I'm torn about this because I know I tweeted the other day that Devin Booker would be my MVP. But after doing some research and doing some digging, maybe we are starting to change how we award the MVP. And with that being said, I think my MVP this year is Joel Embiid. 3rd in PER, leads his team in 3 categories. His team is now the first seed in the Eastern Conference. And you compare that to Joker, who's 1st in PER. He leads his team in all categories, but the Nuggets are the 6th seed. And Giannis, 2nd in PER, leads team in 3 categories, but he's the 4th seed. I think the player who best fits the MVP criteria, not just in terms of individual stats, but also team success, has been Joel Embiid.
That's tough because the East is such a tightened race, and Embiid is 1 right now, but that can change in a couple of days. So my thing is, in a couple of days, if Giannis propels to 1, for example, or if Tatum propels to 1, would you switch and say, oh, I think Giannis might be an MVP? Because I think, like, in the East, it's hard to use, like, for just the top 4 teams specifically, the Bucks, Boston. Well, Miami doesn't have no MVP candidate. So for the Bucks, Boston, and Philly, they can change within the coming days. Does your MVP vote change because of the record, or it still would be Embiid?
It's going to fluctuate depending on the record. But I think Philly will end up with the first seed in the East.
Right now, it is Philadelphia. Right now,
but it can change tonight.
They have the tiebreaker with Miami.
Because Tatum, Celtics are a half game back. They play Minnesota. So Tatum can literally go up to 1 after tonight.
And another thing with Tatum is since the All-Star break, he's shooting 51, 44, and 90 from the field, from the field, 3-point, and from the free throw line. When he's on the floor, the Celtics average 16.7 more points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. He is and has been amazing for the Celtics and is the main reason for their success. You look at their team play for sure, it has been stellar, and they really have done a great job of accepting their roles on the squad, but it all starts with the play of Jason Tatum.
I have trouble putting Jason Tatum in that MVP conversation.
I don't have trouble. He's not in the MVP conversation.
So you do have trouble with putting him in the MVP conversation?
No, I have no trouble. I don't have, because he's saying he has trouble with me. It's like a maybe not.
I can't put Tatum
over.
The
Celtics have been better than Philadelphia.
No, the Celtics have been better as of recently than Philadelphia.
For the past 2-3 months?
Yeah,
that's a decent amount of time in NBA.
Embiid has been dominant all year.
Remember this also. The Sixers right now are the first seed in the Eastern Conference, despite for the majority of the season not having a max player playing for them in Ben Simmons and not having any return on him. They just got James Harden.
Remember,
No,
they were
listen,
first seed until Embiid went down
with-
in the beginning of the year.
And this is no slight to what Joel Embiid and what the Philadelphia 76ers are doing this season. He's been amazing. Jokic has been amazing. Giannis has been amazing.
You think Tatum is on Giannis, Embiid, or Joker's level?
We're talking about 3 of the top 6, 7 NBA
That's
players.
what I'm asking
In my
you.
opinion, Tatum is right there on that cusp of number 8. Tatum is that great.
But I'm talking about in the MVP race. Is he over Joker, Embiid, or Giannis?
You could argue with
think
his
so.
play of recent that he should be in that top 3, top 2 conversation. He has
You're
been
basically-
unbelievable, and he's number 1 in plus minus in the NBA. His defense has been the best at the wing position this season. We just need to start taking into account everything.
If we're then take into account everything, you keep talking about the
I am,
past 2
and we're
months.
talking
You're
about
not.
winning also.
No, but you're not. You're talking about in the past 2 months. In the past 2 months, you keep saying that, and what the Boston Celtics have done. No, but it's been incredible. But if you're gonna take into account everything, take into account from start to finish. Who's been the best players? It's been those 3 guys from start to
And
finish.
realistically, what or when have we seen a team with a new head coach immediately off rip just be this completely different team?
Steve Kerr,
You're not giving. Well, we're already talking about a team.
Nick Nurse.
Okay, but
Damn.
that's a
That was a good list. That was a good list. I ain't gonna.
that's
front.
pretty fair. That's pretty
Jason
fair.
Tatum doesn't have a better MVP case than Devin Booker.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
They have the same numbers.
They average around
One
the
guy's
same
winning more.
numbers.
Tatum
One
averages
guy
more points.
is about to get 60 wins.
He already
and
has
Devin
60 wins.
and Devin. Okay, he already has
He
60
already
wins.
has 60.
And
And
again,
D
we're
Book is second in defense rating amongst guards in the NBA.
And number 1 is Jason Tatum at his position.
Okay, and D Book is second. So how does Tatum
For
have a better
guards, it's
argument?
different.
By the way,
different.
on his 60th win, 49 and 10.
Yeah, 49 points,
49
10
points.
assists.
Since the All-Star game, 50,
Yeah,
40,
you're
and
saying
90.
since the All-Star game. I'm saying for his season, Devin Booker and the Suns
This
have been
season-
dominating.
The thing
This
is,
season,
Kerr's not a. It was like when he came into the league, he was a rookie coach. Yes, that was his first coach being a head coach.
First time.
Exactly. Ime similarly was put in a situation where last season the Celtics underperformed. They were not the team that they were expected to be early on. It translated into this season, especially with the new coach. It was hard for the players to really give in. But Ime got the best out of his players. The players all came together, and they came to that conclusion of we need to accept our roles. I understand that, yes, you look at it from the start of the season to now, the Celtics have not been that. But why can't we give credit where credit is due, where it took them some time, they adjusted, and now are arguably the best team in the NBA?
It's okay to give them credit, but it's okay. We have to also look at the other guys who've been from start to finish dominant. I refuse to credit another guy for his success with his team that they've been doing it for 2 months over a guy who's been dominant with his team all year.
But look at it like this. You have guys like Joel, and this is not, I'm just saying, there's in similar opinion to Joel, where people believe that as great as Booker is, he's not the most important player on his team. You can't look at the Celtics and think that Jason Tatum isn't the most important player on his team.
you can make arguments that defensively he's not.
But again,
No, defensively, he's not.
Rob Will is
Rob
more
Will-
important.
yeah,
Marcus Smart is more important.
Okay,
than him.
all right, but
defensively,
offensively, there's no way
He's the
around
guy.
it. Okay,
He's
yes,
the guy.
and even still, he's putting up the best numbers defensively at the wing position. I agree. He's not the best defensive player for them. You have Rob Williams, you have Marcus Smart, but he's still contributing at a high level defensively.
You are making a case for Devin Booker to be in the conversation. I'm
Other
not
way
saying
around.
I'm not for Tatum to be in conversation. I'm not saying Tatum doesn't deserve to be in there, but
Over Booker, in my opinion.
what exactly specifics comparing them side by side? Why would you put Tatum over Devin Booker in the MVP conversation?
Offensively, he's been just slightly better, and defensively, Tatum has been the best at that position. That's my argument, and I feel like that's pretty fair. And over these last
with you
span of
saying
games-
that Tatum has been the best at his position, whatever. Devin Booker is second in defensive rating amongst guards in the NBA.
He's been great.
I understand it's not the perfect stat. I know defensive rating is more of a team stat. Despite that, Devin Booker has the stats. He's ninth in the NBA in scoring.
even
His
still,
team,
Tatum averages more
his
points.
team right now is
Tatum
at the
averages one more
60-win
point.
mark. His team right now, the Suns are 52-11 with Devin Booker. He's 8-3 without CP3. So when CP3 went out, he actually jumped up his scoring. He started averaging 28 points per game and 7 assists. Devin Booker has by far a better MVP case than Jason Tatum off the record alone.
See, but then I have a hard time sitting with that when we sat here at this table and you acknowledged how you believe CP3 was the
You
most
said,
important.
what's their record without
8-3 without CP3.
Nice.
And since Jaylen Brown tweeted, there's a shift, they've only lost 3 games. That was 2.5 months ago.
So what you're telling me is that Jaylen Brown was the guy who led the charge.
Without Jaylen Brown, he's 8-7 this year.
But that also speaks to my point of this is going to now into a different conversation where Jaylen Brown is so essential to the Celtics' success in terms of he is willing to accept his role as the Robin of the team.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how you can have Tatum over Book in the MVP conversation.
Offensively, I lean Tatum. Defensively,
you're just telling me who's the better player.
But even still, numbers are proving it, and we're talking about this season. Statistically,
I think Tatum
has been better.
I think Tatum is the better player, but he doesn't have a better MVP case than D Book.
What's the definition of MVP?
The thing is,
to you?
we are the best player
on the team.
In the NBA, the best player, the most valuable player in the NBA, in my opinion. Yes, that's what the award should be.
And you think Tatum is more valuable to the Celtics than
Correct.
Devin Booker is,
and
more,
you know
even though they were garbage with him.
Because when Devin Booker was out of the lineup, they lost what? 1 game, 2 games.
And
they played the Magic, the Blazers, and the Knicks.
He was not out for 3 games.
I mean, I know in the games that the Suns played without D Book.
We're recalling something that happened a while ago. I'll look while you give your point. But
no, it's fine. I'll look. Yeah.
I'm just saying in the sense of what you're saying is fair in the sense of they've done it for a span of the season. Yes. But there was a time where people did not look at Devin Booker as the most valuable player on the Suns. That's my whole point.
They're 8-3 without D Book this season.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
The games
I remember when
they beat Detroit. They lost to Golden State. They beat the Spurs. They beat Boston. They lost to the Clippers. They beat Portland, Washington, Portland, the Knicks, lost to the Bucks, and beat Orlando. A lot of these teams suck.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams suck. And that's probably why they didn't play D-Book in these games.
Listen, it's definitely a conversation to be had. And what you're saying to me, I don't strongly disagree. I just look at the turnaround of the Celtics and how it's been mostly due to the fact that Jason Tatum has been
Celtics are 2-2 without
he only missed with COVID. He's played almost every single
game. And one of those wins
season
was against Phoenix when Jaylen Brown played.
Yeah.
It's a huge win.
That's an incredible win.
And that was a minute ago. We're talking about November now.
Since we're on the topic of MVPs, I'm going to say this real quick, then we can move on to the next segment. Yeah. A while back, I compared Ja Morant to Derrick Rose because I think their play styles are very similar. And the discourse in that video was that Ja Morant is better than Derrick Rose. In my opinion, I don't think Ja Morant is better than Derrick Rose. Ja is special. But Derrick Rose was a different player. And I know that Ja has been in the MVP conversation this season, but quite frankly, he doesn't even belong in it. I don't know why Ja Morant is anywhere near the conversation when his team is 17-2 without him. Without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies are one of the best teams in the NBA. You can argue they are the best team winning percentage-wise in the NBA without Ja Morant. How can you possibly be in the MVP discussion if your team without you is still elite? And you look at Derrick Rose compared to Ja Morant this season. Yes, the raw numbers lean Ja Morant. The efficiency leans Ja. But in 2010, 2011, there were 92 possessions per game. Right now, there are 98 possessions per game. The game was slower back then, and Derrick Rose took a 41-win Bulls team to 62 wins. He played 81 games that season, and that was with Carlos Boozer missing 23 games, Joakim Noah missing 35 games, 2 of their best players essentially missing a quarter of the season, and Derrick Rose still led them to the first seed in the Eastern Conference, and this was all without spacing. The Bulls that season attempted 4.5 three-pointers per game. This year, Memphis attempts 24 three-pointers a game.
It's also a different NBA.
It's a different NBA, but that's the reason.
No shooter.
That's the reason why That's the reason why Ja's numbers look better than Derrick Rose's. And when we talk about impact on your team, Derrick Rose had by far a better impact than Ja Morant. I like Ja; he's an exceptional player, but the fact that his team is 17-2 without him, he should be nowhere near the MVP discussion. I think at all.
I like that take.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It just speaks volumes to how great the Grizzlies really are and their depth.
I think it poses a question of how good can your team be if Desmond Bane is your best player?
Desmond Bane's a baller.
He is.
He's mad good.
But what do you think your team's ceiling is if he's your best player?
17-2. I mean, Desmond Bane, when he's shown when he has the opportunity, he can excel in that role.
You know who's going to get paid this offseason?
Look, he's laughing. Don't think I forgot that you slept on Desmond Bane early.
No, I'm laughing that you honestly believe that they'd be really nice with
17-2.
No, that's great. But when this actual film out and now it's a whole season that you really are ready for, I don't think
there is film on Desmond Bane.
Not really. I'm talking about him being the man.
The guy? Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You know who's going to get paid this offseason? Who's been good at point guard in Ja's absence? Tyus Jones.
For sure, man.
He's a perfect Tom Thibodeau guard, by the way.
You would love him?
Yeah. Defense. He plays defense.
Jalen Brunson or
He's
him?
a playmaker. I would take Tyus Jones.
Ooh, because it'd be cheaper?
He fits Tom Thibodeau
to start?
More. Yes.
I would probably take Jalen Brunson.
Why did you make your eyes like that?
Because I feel like you're hyping him because of his system. He wasn't a good backup
Memphis
in Minnesota.
Is a great system.
He wasn't a good backup in Minnesota. Come on.
What? No, I'm being serious. He was young.
He was young.
You don't think who fits Tom Thibodeau more, Brunson or
he played
Tyus
with
Jones?
Tom Thibodeau? You do know that, right?
He was young, bro.
Jalen Brunson feels like he fits that New York vibe.
He played with under Jay Wright. I like Jay Wright is kind of like Tom Thibodeau. I like Jalen Brunson for you guys.
In Minnesota, his final year, he averaged 7 points and 5 assists.
He's a good backup. No, I think he's a good backup, but starter.
I think defensively he brings a lot to the table.
You don't think Jalen Brunson does?
No, he's not a good defender. I like Brunson.
I don't know.
I feel like he just fits the Knicks more.
Okay.
Is Brunson not a good defender? I don't know about his defense.
No, he's not a good defender. He's not a good defender. On to the next topic. The Miami Heat. This past week hasn't been the best for them. They're on a 4-game losing streak at the time of this recording. They now have fallen to the 2nd seed. The 4 games have been the Nets, the Knicks, the Warriors, the Sixers. And this season, the Heat have had 5 3-game losing streaks. So this isn't their first skid. We all saw the viral video of Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem getting into it. Udonis Haslem said to Jimmy Butler, "I'd beat your ass."
Clown.
And they got into it. Even Eric Spoelstra asked Jimmy Butler if he wants to fight him.
That was crazy.
In the middle of the game.
Miami gets crazy.
I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think that the Heat right now are imploding? And Drew, you have said all year that you're not a believer in the Heat. So I want to hear from you first.
All right, say no more. This 4-game losing streak specifically has been a tough one. Against Philadelphia, no Harden, no Embiid, they lose. Against the Golden State Warriors, no Clay, no Steph, no Dre, they lose. Lose to the Knicks. I don't have to say anything else there. And then you get smoked by the Nets last night. It's been a tough road for them, and the reason why I have been skeptical about the Heat as a whole is because I can't trust their offense. In terms of, I don't know if they have the firepower to compete against top teams in the East that are not only great defensively, but also great offensively. Milwaukee Bucks, the Celtics. I'll throw in the Philadelphia 76ers. And for the matter of fact, I'll also throw in the Brooklyn Nets, who they could potentially face in the first round of the playoffs. The way things are shaking out right now, the Nets are having everything perfectly aligned where now Kyrie Irving's allowed to play in home games and away games. And so you have to look at the fact that now the Nets are most likely going to be the 7th seed and are going to be playing against the number 2 seed, which is right
Kyrie
now.
Can play in Canada, though.
Yes, but Toronto's the 6th seed right now.
Oh, so you're projecting that they'll stay there in Cleveland. Okay.
Correct. So there's a possibility where the Heat might have to play the Nets in that first round. And there's a strong chance that the Heat get bounced in the first round. As much as I look at their team defensively, and I have to give them that credit where credit is due, offensively, I have had my reservations, and I will continue to have these reservations on a team where Jimmy Butler down the stretch, he goes ghost at times, especially this season. And I give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been struggling with injuries this season, 5 sprained ankles, which is crazy to really think about. But he's had his struggles. Bam Adebayo's inconsistent offensive play. He's amazing defensively, no doubt about it, but he's been inconsistent offensively. And then Kyle Lowry, who's been, to a degree, a shell of what the Heat had expected going into this season. He's really been a letdown to a degree. And Tyler Hero, to an extent, coming back to reality where he hasn't been as efficient, as dominant as he was earlier in the season. And, of course, it's when it matters most, coming down the stretch of the regular season where you're fighting for those top seeds, you're trying to gain some confidence in preparation for the playoffs. So are they starting to implode? I don't know if I would go as far to say implode. They've had great team chemistry for the past couple of seasons. But in terms of my confidence level in them, it's still the same as it's been throughout the entirety of the season. I'm not high on the Heat, and there is a strong possibility they can get bounced in the first round.
I was never high on the Heat. Never believed in Heat. Didn't think they were title contenders. Joel, what did?
Title contenders is
I
nuts,
never thought
man.
they'd come out the East just because of the simple fact that Jimmy Butler's their best player offensively. I didn't think relying on guys like Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, however you say his name, was going to work. They've been one of the worst teams in the league in efficiency in this stretch. They've been sloppy. They've been turning the ball over defensively. They haven't been themselves.
For sure.
I don't want to say Kyle Lowry has been a shell of himself. I just think he's been in a role
Of what they've expected from him.
I think he's playing a role, and it's like he's kind of like succumbed to what he's used to. But I'm not going to really go too deep into Kyle Lowry because it's been a team thing.
Sure.
Jimmy Butler has been struggling defensively. The team hasn't been there. Spo has to get it together. Do I think they're imploding? No. Do I think the Nets can beat them? Duh. I thought it when the Nets were struggling. I thought it when the Nets weren't struggling. I think the Nets can beat anybody. But I also think Miami doesn't. Miami is such a weird team because in the regular season, they're going to be great. They're going to be great. But in the playoffs, star power usually tends to win out. And in a lot of series, they probably have the weakest star, not saying Jimmy's trash or nothing like that. So they have a group of role players that's really good, that fits the system. But when you have a group of role players, you need that guy. It doesn't matter how good your role players are, you need that guy. Kobe Bryant had great role players. He was still that guy. LeBron, when he won, he had a great role players, was still
100%.
that guy. He still had those games where Caruso needed to step up. KCP,
No doubt.
Kobe Bryant had Ron Artest, Pau Gasol, Derek Fisher hit some shots. You still need that guy to eventually win it all for you. And I don't think the Miami Heat have that guy.
The Miami Heat right now are imploding. This has been a ship that I've been on that
Oh, my God.
You couldn't even finish the season with him.
that right now I'm jumping ship. I'm jumping off the ship.
Respect.
And this is the reason why. I love their depth. I love their tenacity. The DNA they have defensively, I loved it to begin the season. But I think injuries ruin the Heat. I think too far often this season they've been playing with multiple guys. I think their main core didn't get enough play together this season, and now that they're all, for the most part, together, you can kind of see these stretches of offensive inconsistency. They lost against Philly without Embiid and without Harden. They got outscored by 6 in the second half. They lost to Golden State, outscored by 14 in the second half in a blowout loss without Steph. And then against the Knicks, they blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter to a Knicks team without Julius Randle. Emmanuel Quickley had 20 points in the fourth quarter alone.
Yep.
And he beat them himself. I look at the Heat, and defensively, I really don't have much concerns, but it's really offensively where I'm really concerned. In crunch time, and for those out there that's watching, crunch time is measured by a game within 5 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. They get outscored by 8 points per 100 possessions in crunch time. They have the 5th worst offense in crunch time at 98.4 points per game per 100 possessions, which is trash. That's one of the least efficient offenses in the NBA. And
In the stretch or just in the season?
In the season.
Okay.
And Tyler Hero leads the team in fourth quarter minutes and scoring.
Yikes.
I love Tyler Hero. I don't know if he can be your main option going into the playoffs in the fourth quarter.
For sure.
Kyle Lowry is somebody that I don't have much faith in. I think he's getting older. His age is showing. We've seen before in the playoffs, even in his prime, he disappears in games. Jimmy Butler has always been good and steady in the playoffs, but he's never been a superstar or exceptional or elite. And I think the bubble run, more specifically the finals, his finals performances really flawed the way, or really skewed the way people view Jimmy Butler, because he's not that type of player. Bam Adebayo still has his offensive inconsistencies. And you're right. You can't really rely on role players. And this X factor I've been thinking could be Victor Oladipo all year. He's averaging 6 points per game. He's played in 6 games. He's been inefficient. He's coming back from an injury. But I don't know, with 3 weeks left in the season, if he can make a proper comeback and be himself again. Mm-hmm. And even then, Oladipo's not the same player he once was. Unfortunately, he's never recovered from his ACL injury that he suffered in Indiana. Not only do I think the Nets can beat the Heat, I think the Raptors can upset the Heat in the first round. They're 2-1 against them this year. Bam, Hero, and Jimmy Butler played in all those games. Kyle Lowry didn't play in those games. I think the Raptors can keep the game close. Defensively, their versatility, they can match up with Miami. And I think the Raptors can make a series against the Heat absolute hell, and they can upset them.
Yeah, bro. It just be left field sometimes. That take just took me left field, man.
But a lot's going in my mind right now. The fact that, obviously you were pretty high on the Heat, which is fine. People were high on the Heat.
Was that the take when you was like, it was going to surprise people?
No.
That wasn't even the take? Oh, my God.
It's just from one extreme to the other with you, which is why you kill me sometimes. But you know what? To a degree,
Raptors can match up well against a lot of teams.
The problem with Toronto is their depth stinks. And they run their guys. Their five guys play a lot of minutes, and they're tired.
It's a great five.
It's an exceptional five.
Yeah.
It's one of the best fives in the East. Yeah. But the thing is, they don't have any back end talent. You know what I'm saying? And
Thad Young is playing better.
Who'd you say?
Thad Young.
They got like this.
Achua is playing better too.
I think Bam can have a real field day in that series, because I think the problem with Toronto is they lack size.
He can, but
Bam and Siakam.
Oh, I think Bam will really give hell to Siakam. Honestly, I really believe
that's
that.
He kind of underrating Siakam in his play this season.
I think whether you put Siakam, Scotty, OG on Jimmy, they can neutralize him. I think Gary Trent's a good defender. I think Fred VanVleet is better than Kyle Lowry right now, for sure.
Easy. That's with my eyes closed.
Yeah, but
the series is going to come down to Pascal Siakam and if he can be 100%. Efficient in the playoffs.
That's such a fact. And I trust the way that Pascal has been playing this season. I trust that he can do that
against Bam.
The thing is, Bam's a great defender, yes, but
I think they would put PJ on him.
His play is also much more than just his scoring. Like a very underrated part of his game is facilitating.
I think the series would be a dogfight.
Pascal Siakam doesn't need to be the highest scorer in the series for them to get past them.
For Jimmy Butler.
I disagree. He needs to be the highest scorer
against Toronto.
Yes,
to beat Toronto.
Yes,
I don't think he needs to be the highest scorer to beat Toronto.
And I was watching some post game interviews from some of the Heat players, and they all, I think it was Lowry or Jimmy or Spoelstra, I don't know which one it was exactly, but I know one of them said that their DNA is to bounce back from things, and they've proven themselves. The Heat have just went on one run. The very next year, they got smoked out by Milwaukee.
This is their third year together.
This Miami Heat team.
This is a new team.
We don't know what they are.
Yeah.
They don't have a track record of proving that they're this elite, great team. They don't. This is a brand new team. This is a team that has to prove themselves. After being embarrassed last season, they have to now prove themselves.
I don't disagree.
Somebody said this, and I don't know what your take on it is going to be. They said this Miami Heat team feels like the 1990s Knicks. They're great defensively, but offensively they're very bad. They're not good.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing at all. I've been saying this completely all season. I don't know how many times I've actually said that exact statement on this show.
I mean, in terms of like 20. The tenacity, in terms of the way they play gritty, hard every night, I could see.
They don't have a Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, I could see the personality though. The personality.
Yeah, you ask Riv, they have Patrick Ewing. Bam Adebayo.
I'm not even gonna get into that.
I'm sorry, man. I'm just being honest.
Because I think Bam would lock Siakam. That's not a tall talent. Let me not say that's not a tall talent. But Bam
your praise for Bam.
He's an elite defender.
No, you treat him like he's the second coming of Christ himself.
He's an elite defender
with offensive play that is spotty.
Do you think the Heat are going to lose in the first round?
Yeah.
If they play the Nets, yes.
Yeah.
I would. If they play the Nets, I would definitely.
If they play the Raptors, what do you think?
I think it's a really great series.
For me, the Raptors have always been the hardest 5 games in the East, but they lose. Like, I think the Raptors would make any series tough, but they lose.
I'll tell you what, I would pick the Raptors in a 7-game series.
I'll take Heat. And if they play Cleveland, I'm taking Heat.
It's not like Nurse is a scrub coach either, so it would be really...
Spo clears.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who... Like, on the East, it doesn't matter.
But that's not my point. by saying that, I'm saying that it's not as if Spo is such a tremendously great coach.
I think he is.
That
Nurse is a player coach.
But the thing is, even still, Nurse still gets the best out of his guys.
No, I get it. Nurse is a player coach, but in terms of the X's and O's schemes and all that, Spo clears.
I agree. But Nurse is not a scrub coach. Is what that was essentially my main point.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's still an L in that department.
Yeah, for sure.
I
I'm talking
think
about one of the best
most of
coaches
us-
in the NBA and spoke.
Most of us here are pretty low on the Heat. I recently become
most of
a
us.
member of it. I just jumped ship.
Oh, okay.
I'm not coming
Welcome-
back on it. I'm not. I'm
welcome to the
swimming,
team.
I'm swimming away.
That's one of his more respectable things.
No, I'm glad you
This is-
jumped
to
ship
make
before
it-
the playoffs.
To make it clear, I'm actually gonna just wait till the playoffs start to talk about the teams that I'm jumping ship on.
There we go. That's valid because I don't want to hear it today, and then he changes that day. So
I
I'd rather hear it
have
then.
teams already in mind that I know that I'm gonna be on their
We
ship.
need the Bulls healthy, man. We need them healthy. I'm not trying to jump ship on them.
Speaking about the Bulls,
There we go.
I've never been on the ship to begin with, and it's
You've
funny
just been
because
pushing the goalposts.
But before the season,
Low
it's funny.
key.
You know, I apologize to Bulls fans at the start of the season. Now, I was thinking about it the other day because I was like, man, I've been way too reactionary. I've been way too friendly with my apologies lately. Did the Bulls really deserve an apology? We're sitting almost at the end of the season, and the Bulls are exactly where I thought they'd be as a 5th seed.
So we'd be 6.
And no, I said 5th.
said six.
Look at my Twitter. I said 5th. The 5th seed, and the role player Alonzo spot up shooter take aged tremendously well.
He's been hurt
because
Leave him alone.
even when he's played, he has worse stats than he had with the Pelicans. But part of the reason I was low on the Bulls was because you guys assembled so much talent so quickly and traded a lot of young assets. And one of the trades was trading for Nikola Vucevic, who at the time was averaging a career high 24 and 11. You traded Wendell Carter Jr. for him, Franz Wagner, a first-round pick that became Franz Wagner, and a 2023 first-round pick also. And looking at this season, Vucevic and Wendell Carter, you can argue Wendell Carter Jr. has been better. So you as a Bulls fan, what do you think about this trade in hindsight?
Wait, let me ask you a quick question.
What are your feelings
quick
about
question. Just if we
This sounds backhanded, man.
quick question.
This
If
one
we
would hurt me.
if we would have kept that pick, who do you think we'd have picked? Just to toss
Davion
out-
Mitchell.
You think we'd have picked Davion?
I don't know if I don't think you guys pick Franz personally,
Yeah.
but it's not far fetched to say you pick Franz.
Well, because we don't get DeMar, so we would essentially. Okay, so you said yes, Wendell has been better than Vooch at his worst. Congratulations. You know, he's been better than the worst version of Vucevic. A lot of people are. But I think this move we made, first of all, we got a new GM. We got a new guy, AK. He's been incredible for us. This move we had to make. It was no, like, there's no thinking twice about it. There was no looking in hindsight, this is a bad move, because we want to be competitive. We want to make the playoffs. It's been a long time, 2017, I believe, since we've made the playoffs. Wendell Carter Jr., has he improved in Orlando? Yes. Is that a different situation than what we were in? Absolutely. Orlando's one of the worst teams in the league. We were trying to be competitive.
Yeah.
So we were moving on to a different scenario. So Wendell has been great in that department. When he was with us, nagging injuries, inconsistent.
He was good, to be fair, just the injuries.
That's what I said.
That's why I said inconsistent. He'll play good, get hurt, come back, struggle, then get hurt, then come back. Like, it was too much inconsistency with Wendell. It just wasn't going to work. So to get Vooch, who essentially DeMar has said in multiple interviews that he's the reason he came to Chicago, to get Vooch, ultimately to bring in DeMar, I think you don't think twice about that move, because at the end of the day, as much as struggles that we've had lately, we're still a competitive team.
I'll tell you, my problem with the Bulls when they made all these trades, like signing DeMar and all this stuff, I was like, I feel like they're making all these moves just to be a first, second round exit in the Eastern Conference. And at this point in time, you can say that you're trending towards being a first round exit.
This is also our first year together.
You traded away future assets.
They're not healthy
for that,
which is what really is the tarnish on the Bulls right now. When they were healthy, they were one of the best teams in the league.
But I don't think so, because this is a fresh new roster. This is a new roster. Lonzo's new, DeMar's new, Caruso's new. Vooch is still essentially new because he came at the All-Star break. He didn't get to play with Zach a lot last year. So that's five new people. And Billy Donovan, like, this is a whole new process. So our first year, I feel like, would still be deemed a success because we still made the playoffs. We're still a competitive
and you
team.
Tremendously improved from last season.
Zach's still young. Pat Willis still young. Kobe White's young. Lonzo's young. These are still young
Caruso.
players. He's not.
He
young?
is. He is.
Okay. All right. He's over 26.
still relatively.
Yeah, but I'm
young.
not.
I know what you're saying, but Vucevic is an unrestricted free agent after next season. Lonzo Ball, I know what he's going to be. Caruso, he's good. He's a good role player. Kobe White.
One thing
Are you guys going to bring him back? What if he gets an offer sheet from another team?
To say you know what Lonzo's going to be is kind of, you say that disrespectfully.
No, I just know what he's going to be. He's a good role player.
A great role player.
He's
one of the best role players.
Okay, you can say that.
All right, good. I'm glad we can agree on that.
He had the second best defensive rating when he played.
I know what Lonzo's going to be, though.
He could be a great role player.
I know what he provides.
He could be the best number 3
that's all I'm saying.
On a team.
I think you guys have been a bit too high on Pat Will.
He hasn't played this year.
No, I know. But I just think Pat Will's going to be a good, fine player, but he's also a guy trending in that good role player.
You haven't even seen him play.
I have not this season, but last season we've seen
Tell
him
him
play.
about the baby claw, bro.
He's played one season. You don't know what he's gonna do. You
think it's Kawhi Leonard?
Hold on, no, I'll be playing. That's literally what the draft guys used to call him, the paw, because of his hands are comparable to Kawhi. That's why they call him that.
Paw is tough.
That's why they call him that. But you've watched one season of him, which he was checking stars as a rookie and doing great. And then you know what he's gonna be.
No,
Lonzo,
I feel like
I can understand.
He could be a great role player. I think Pat Will is going to be an elite defender for sure.
Elite defender is huge, though.
I know. That's not a bad thing.
And it's not like he needs to be this prolific scorer when you have Zach.
He's already a
you have
40%
DeMar.
3-point shooter now as a spot up. What do you like?
I just feel like you guys aren't going to be better than the top teams in the East moving forward.
Who are the top teams? I think we could be better.
I don't
than
think
Miami.
you guys are going to be better than Milwaukee anytime soon. I don't think you're going to be better than Philly with Harden anytime soon. With the Nets, and
That can be a conversation. It depends on what Harden you're getting.
With the Nets and Kyrie and KD, and then being back next year, you're not going to be better than them. And the Celtics have figured it out. You won't be better than them.
I think.
And the Knicks are coming up too.
I think this is you being a hater. So a lot of the things you're saying is just very, very much spitfire.
You think so?
Yeah, Boston.
To a degree.
Yeah.
To a degree.
I feel like I'm spitting a lot of facts.
I don't. You did spit
truth
facts.
hurts.
You did spit a little bit of facts about Milwaukee. That's facts. Giannis is going to be here.
The Nets aren't facts.
The Nets are the play-in team right now.
Stop.
You know why? You know why?
You know why?
KD was hurt. Kyrie was a part-time. Now they're both on the court together.
But that's my point, though. We don't know. We don't know.
Kyrie's not a part-time no more.
Yeah, but Kyrie also is a free agent. We don't.
We'll get into this.
So
with
Zach's a
NBA
free
after.
agent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't know what we're gonna be. That's all I'm saying. Like the Nets is still a mystery. We don't know what we're gonna be.
Come on,
Boston. We can definitely be better.
Why
in Boston.
definitely is crazy.
We can be better. In
Tatum
Boston.
is an ascending superstar.
Tatum clears every player on your
What's
team.
that smirk
That's
you
fine.
give?
That's fine. Jaylen Brown doesn't clear neither of our guys.
I agree with that, but Jaylen Brown he's
what?
the fourth.
Can
but
you
it's
really count on
close
DeMar
fourth.
being this great every season? Like after this, like this is the first time we've seen DeMar take it to this level.
Riv said it perfectly before the show. He said he was playing elite to start the season. He's been playing great of recent,
as the
which
playoffs
is fair.
as the playoffs come closer. That's what you expect.
Yeah.
I mean, you just said, could you expect him to play great when he's been playing great for like the past 7-8 years?
No, I'm saying, but this level is MVP level.
I don't think he'll be elite, but I think he can play great.
Okay.
I think Zach can take that level.
So all this to say that you wouldn't redo this trade back. You don't miss Wendell Carter Jr.
Why would I miss Wendell Carter Jr.?
And Franz. Let's
15 and 10
this
this season.
Let's live in that scenario.
You said 15 and 10?
15 and 10.
Vooch is at 18 and 10.
Okay,
18,
but Wendell's
18,
more
no,
efficient.
18, 11, 4, 1, and
And
1.
he's struggling.
Wendell's more efficient. And Franz Wagner, 15-point per game scorer too.
Well, we wouldn't pick Franz. You just said that.
I don't know. Maybe you guys do pick Franz.
And
I don't know. I
we
no
wouldn't
idea.
have DeMar and we'd suck.
But let's live in that scenario.
Okay, so
You
we
take
will
Franz,
have Lonzo, Zach,
Caruso,
Franz,
Wendell.
Pat Will, then
Vooch.
Wendell.
Oh, you don't have Vooch. I'm
We don't
sorry.
get
Yes.
Vooch.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
our
sorry.
5.
You think DeRozan really doesn't come though?
He's literally have said it in multiple interviews. That's why, like, I don't think you really went in here and
He didn't. He explained that to me also because they went to school together.
Yeah,
That,
he-
Well, I know.
big
I know the
factor.
history.
That's
of it,
our 5.
But
Is that a playing team?
But the Bulls were.
Is that a playing team?
But the Bulls offered DeMar the bag.
Yep.
That's why he went.
Is that a playing team?
Yeah, it is.
You think so?
Without DeMar,
With
no.
Zach?
Without DeMar, no.
With Zach.
we're talking about like this.
I think you asking me to play in team.
All
Wow.
right. A big reason why I'm not completely.
That means like not 10-19 too though. 10th and 9th seed as well.
We were like 11th last year, 11th to 12th,
So you guys could have been playing with that roster.
and then we possibly don't win the play-in, so we're back to square one.
Listen. Do I
But
love?
you have your assets for the future.
We still have our assets for the future.
Not all of them.
We have 4 assets,
Imagine you guys picked Ayo with the young group of that.
but
young
but
group.
we still picked Ayo.
I know. I'm just saying,
What are you saying?
I'm not saying. I think in hindsight,
You have said.
What I'm saying.
Hold on. You have said Wagner's going to be a good player. So you basically said, yo, you get Wendell and a good player, you're good. That's what you're saying. Essentially, we're fine.
I'm
As
honest,
opposed to not having DeMar.
I guess
and
my
Vooch.
conclusion
That's
to
ridiculous.
my conclusion to
the thing
this.
is, DeMar is what makes this a different conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Wendell and Vooch, tomato.
My
But
conclusion
DeMar-
to this.
Both of them?
I know, you're right. That's what makes it fair.
Listen, my conclusion to this
What is your conclusion, young man?
is that the Magic easily won this trade.
They have 10 wins.
They did win this trade.
But
How
they
do they
won
have-
this trade.
they have
traded
our
away
pick,
an
right?
aging star,
We won't be a non-playoff team.
But they got Franz
but
and
they wanted
Wendell.
to rebuild.
And we wanted to be
the
competitive.
Magic,
So how did they win?
the
If we
Magic,
both won.
Because ultimately, you
the
guys
Magic won this trade easily.
you guys made
the
this
Magic
move to
fleeced
try-
you.
How did they fleece us?
The Magic fleeced you because they gave up an aging star in
player.
Vucevic
Yep.
for Wendell Carter Jr. is averaging
What is he
15 and
gonna
10
be?
this season.
What is he gonna be to you?
He's going to be a very good defender, very good 5 in the NBA. They got Franz Wagner, who's going to be a first-team All-Rookie this season and a first-round pick in 2023.
And a very good player.
Maybe Franz exceeded
No,
my
no.
expectations. He exceeded my expectations
Why
coming out of
can't
college.
Franz
No,
Great.
I'm going off his mindset. You said
I just
you
said
think,
maybe
you
he
think,
can
no,
exceed
you
my
think
expectations.
you think Wendell's going to be a good player. So essentially, they traded a borderline all-star for a good young player, and it's basically Wendell and DeMar versus Wagner and DeMar and Vooch versus Wagner and Wendell.
I think DeMar, if he gets the bag, is still going to Chicago, bro. I'll be honest. I really do.
No, I understand, but
DeMar's value was low. People were
I'm just-
shocked he went to Chicago.
I'm telling you, I can only tell you what he said, bro. I can't tell you what
I'm looking at this trade as it is. I'd rather have Wendell Franz, a first-round pick, than Vucevic. Simple as that.
It's not just Vucevic though. That's why I think you're missing the trade.
Well, the
part of
trade
it.
is just Vucevic.
No.
I'm
But
talking about the trade.
no. Because you have to think of everything. We get Vooch, now DeMar comes. It's like it's a hand-in-hand deal. That's why we didn't lose the trade, because we get DeMar. Now we're competitive again. We're back to winning basketball.
I'm skeptical.
We keep that team. We're not winning basketball. And if Zach stays, and if he comes out and he says, I want to stay because I want to play with DeMar and Vooch, that even makes this trade another more win.
That's my main
makes the trade
argument.
another more win.
I am
Because I promise you, he's not staying if we have Wendell Carter Jr.
That was my
and
main
pick.
argument. You had to do something to want to make Zach LaVine
I know,
want to
but
stay.
I am skeptical.
Of course you
of
are.
the fact that DeMar does not even consider Chicago if Vucevic is not there. I understand they were college teammates, but as long as he sees Zach there and the Bulls are offering him a bag,
That's what I
he's
also
going to
said
the
to you,
Bulls.
Riz.
I'm just telling
What
you what he
team
said.
was
though.
offering that much
Can
money?
I not only tell you what he said?
I understand,
He
but you
said
got
it's not like he said it once. He said it. It's been the same song in multiple interviews.
But the thing is, it's not like Zach's some bum. Like Zach
Yeah,
is
I
the
know.
Songs
top
have remixes.
3, top
Zach is
4
different.
shooting guard in
Zach
the
is-
league.
Zach is different.
But that's what
I'm just telling you what he said. He said his prime. He went there because of Vooch. That's what he said.
The songs have remixes.
I understand.
Never
But
know.
that's what he said. I mean,
Okay, that's what he said, and I'm not believing 100% what he said. Maybe that's my fault.
oh, all right. You don't want to believe him. I can't knock you from believing. But we get Vooch. Now we have DeMar. Now Zach probably is going to stay. Win. I'm not saying Magic lost. They won too. They got their. He's playing great for them. They got their pick. It's a win-win on both sides. I wouldn't say a lose-lose because they're the worst team in the league. We're
A
competitive.
lose-win. Like,
Yeah.
I
I see
agree.
what you're saying.
I think it is a win-win also.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate
You made some
you.
really great points.
You guys hater on the left side.
No,
Talking about
he-
the Knicks are coming. Coming
Yeah.
where?
RJ Barrett.
Like where? Like come on, third seed. Like this guy. Like where are you guys coming? Like come on, bro.
I'll tell you what, Joel. You're being hard on the Bulls.
He's a hater. He
you're
has to.
being
He
hard
has
on
to
him.
continue the rivalry. I understand. It's not really a rivalry right now,
not.
but he has to continue that. I get it. You know what I'm saying? You know he has Randall, Mitch, Jericho Sims playing Taj Gibson.
RJ, you can't forget
Oh,
Star
yeah,
J.
yeah, I'm sorry, Star J. Star J.
You gotta.
Yeah.
Who he would trade for Donovan Mitchell?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Because wouldn't you want to keep them together?
I would, but if
you gotta go, you gotta go.
Trade
So
one.
you can just have, you'd upgrade at Donovan Mitchell, but then your team is still mediocre.
I don't know, maybe.
I mean, you'll be mediocre for years. You guys suck.
Before we go on to the next segment, college basketball fans, join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for a shot at a share of over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool and answer a question like who will make it to the next round and who will hit the most three-pointers, then track your results. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TBPN, bet $5 on any college hoops team to win, and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TBPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, on to the next part of the show. We're going to have Ryan Hammer, who's very knowledgeable about college basketball, to come and talk to us about March Madness and answer some of the more grueling questions about the top prospects in college basketball. Okay, we are now back, and we're joined by Ryan Hammer.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for being on the show to talk some college basketball.
Of course, thanks for having me. I'm excited to finally get on.
Pleasure having you on, dude.
So, first off, we're in the Elite Eight right now. Houston is going to face Villanova, and Villanova won. Arkansas versus Duke yesterday. Duke won.
Smoke show.
And today, Miami and Kansas, UNC versus St. Peter's. Who do you think's going to win in these two matchups?
I mean, I know we're all rooting for St. Peter's at least.
You
right?
already know. Except this guy
yeah.
over here. Terrible New Jerseyan.
I mean, like it's the seed differences is crazy in this one, kind of like Kansas, Miami. But it's tough to say. Like, I don't think St. Peter's. I wouldn't pick them if I'm like making a pick gun to my head. But like they can win, man. Like the teams they have beaten so far, the three teams, all rely on talent and athleticism over tactics and scheme. And they kind of like get streaky. And North Carolina is another team like that. They play hero ball. They took 31 threes last game. They rely on someone to get streaky. So I'm hoping that St. Peter's runs that 3-2 zone today to really shut down RJ Davis, Caleb Love. I'll be bold. I'll take St. Peter's to go to the Final Four.
Let's go.
That's what we need right here.
It's crazy too because you think about it, like UNC is also a team people were counting out in this postseason, and then St. Peter's also another team, obviously on a bigger scale.
No way.
But UNC people were thinking they were going to lose in the first round, and then in the second round they didn't think they would do it. And both of these teams, underdog mentality, now are about to see each other. It's kind of crazy.
You think that game against Duke completely changed their season around?
Yeah.
Low key, man. They
Definitely.
smoked them. And that was a really good momentum for them going into March.
So at this point, who do you guys have going to basically making it to the championship?
Well, my Final Four, I had Gonzaga in it. They flopped. Purdue, they flopped. But I had Kansas. I think like another one I had Kansas, and I think Kansas is probably going to win it all.
Okay.
I think I'm going to bank on Oche. I think his presence there, his all-around game is so incredible, and I think right now Kansas, Remy Martin has been huge for them, so I think Kansas has been hot, so I think I'm going to go Kansas. But Duke, I ain't gonna sleep on Duke because they have the number one pick. So you have the number one
That's
pick.
Really what
you know
it
what
comes
I'm
down
saying?
to. Paolo has just been at a different level. Last night was like the worst shooting performance he had, and even still, he was dominant. I'm just looking at the Blue Devils and just the team chemistry they have right now, the dominance they've showed these last couple of games.
Don't sleep on Adrian Griffin, man.
Kansas is that's going to be a great game.
I'm a college basketball casual, so I'm just gonna go with Duke.
Fair enough.
Just because of Paolo.
And Coach K, it's there's
That is
so
an
many
extreme safe pick.
storylines going into Duke winning the whole thing, and it all stems from Coach K's last season.
So
It's
who
like
do
a
you
movie.
think's
It's like a storyline.
Bro, you can't make it up. They've been that great, and for him to lose his last game at home, him to come out and have that speech of
Bro, I wish Roy Williams was coaching this
So
last
for
year.
real,
too.
man,
It would've been
for real.
crazy.
so
They both
Ryan?
needed their separate years.
That's
Like,
true.
One go out 1 year, one go out the other. They had to do that. Yeah.
When's Jim Boeheim going out? I'm waiting for that.
you need it tomorrow.
It's time. It's time for all the old heads. It's time.
Buddy's
bro.
graduating, right? Buddy's graduating.
Yeah, they're gone. Thank
he's
God.
done.
Yeah.
Get him out of here. Yeah.
I hate them too.
sorry,
There's
man.
just a bunch of shooters that just can't do anything else. They're like poor man's Duncan Robinsons.
You hate to hear that.
So Ryan, what team do you think's gonna make it to the championship and face off against each other?
I'll take Duke for sure. Good title. St. Peter's, like I said, against the talent, like they do well, but like them, I think that's gonna be too much talent if they get there. And I'll take I'll take Duke in the North Carolina rematch. They've also never faced in the tournament ever. Like,
crazy.
they've been so
Wow.
good for so many years.
Ducking
It's
each other.
mind blowing to me. They've never faced each other. It's like even more of a storybook writing right there.
Would it be Nova and Duke in the
No, I
final?
mean Duke, North Carolina in the Final
Nova
Four, or
and
St. Peter's.
Kansas, which is crazy.
Four
Like,
blue bloods.
That's that
Wait,
game
Kansas
right
versus St.
versus-
Peter's?
No,
I'm
Kansas
sorry.
versus Villanova.
And then St. Peter's versus who? If they win this game.
Duke.
They would play Duke.
Ooh.
They'd get. I'm not gonna lie. Duke is gonna do it to him. Like
That's
that's not a
toast.
game.
That's
I'm not playing.
toast.
That game is crazy. Like
That's toast.
yeah, that's the end all be all for them at
Damn,
that point.
I hate to hear that.
One of the biggest questions that everybody is now asking when it pertains to the draft is centered around Chet Holmgren because he has a very skinny frame. And Ryan, John tells me that you've talked at length about Chet Holmgren and his frame, if you're worried about it in the NBA, if you're not. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think Chet is the prospect everybody's hyping up to be? Are those concerns real? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely real concerns. Like it's hard. You can't say it's not a concern. Like you look at him, and I don't know exactly what he weighs, one something probably, but maybe not one something, but whatever it is. And I just get I get a little worked up at times. Well, you guys are on TikTok. You know how it goes. Like people are like, he sucks. He's too skinny. He's Bull 2.0. I'm like, I can't wrap my head around it. I want to like bash my head into the wall at times when I hear that stuff. But I think he is a generational prospect. He is so risky because of his skill set. Like, no, we don't see guys like that. He's nothing like Bull. Completely different skill sets. He's closer to Evan Mobley than he is Bull for sure. And am I worried a little bit? Yes, but at the same time, he's shown great toughness throughout the year against guys like Jalen Duren that are super, super strong. And his length like balances his lack of strength, I think, very, very well. He disrupts so many shots and contends so many shots. He's 7'6" wingspan. Like, that's ridiculous. It's a freakish wingspan. So I'm not too worried. He's going to be 1 or 2 on my board. It's going to be him and Banchero. I still haven't decided, to be honest. I go back and forth.
He's 190?
190.
I'm 168. He's like a foot and some change taller.
I was going to say, if only you had like 14 inches more, man.
God.
In the NBA.
The thing about Evan Mobley, I know that there was a lot of concerns about Evan Mobley's frame going into the NBA. I never thought that was a concern. But even between Mobley and Chet, I think Mobley had a better frame than Chet coming out of college. Like you could see that Mobley was going to fill out eventually, and he was just young. I'm not sure about Chet. Like, I think Chet is going to be a fine player. He reminds me a lot of Kristaps Porzingis, like 100%. A high end.
Yep.
But I don't know if that's top 2, top 3 pick worthy. I don't think this draft is that deep. I'm not a big fan of the players in this draft.
I mean, when you look at his instincts, look at his defensive, like you look at the way he plays defense, you look at the way he blocks disrupt shots, you look at the fact that even though there are guys stronger than him that body him up, he's just going to block his shot.
Facts.
1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It's just, I guess, like coming into the NBA, you know, he's a big, so he's going to have to see those strong type of bigs. It's just going to be a different game. But I think when you have those type of instincts and those type of skills, sometimes you got to take the risk. You know, like you said, Porzingis, they were like, Porzingis wasn't as skinny, but you took the risk because his skill set. There's no way you can not take the risk because the skill set is so superior. So if Chet doesn't get hurt, you know, you can see some big things from, and he has a really long wingspan. I'm scared for him because Victor's right after him, and I think Victor's way better than him.
Wembanyama?
Yeah,
that's
so
a fact.
He's different.
Yeah, that's the scary part for me. But I think Chet will be fine. It's just how he has to be smart enough to know if I'm this skinny and I'm not going to fill out too much, how can I impact the game? And I think he has that smartness right now.
And I think that also you look at the way that he can handle the ball at 7 feet, 7'2", something ridiculous like
7'1",
that. The way that he can handle the ball, his play style is so unique for his size, his abilities. I think that that's an advantage for him too, because he's not, if he were a traditional big where he was only banging down low and he could not stretch the floor the way that he can, then his frame would be a major concern for me, because there are definitely going to be players in the NBA that are more dominant, that are stronger than him, that can bully him down low.
Rudy Gobert, how many bigs that skinny really go down low?
That's a fact.
He's gonna be a 4. Like, I'm so confident he's gonna play 4. People say like, oh, how is he gonna guard Embiid and Giannis? Who can guard them? Like, nobody can guard them anyway. For the first part, he's got to guard guys like John Collins and like Jaren Jackson and guys that are like 4-5s also, and like that are good, not amazing right away. And he'll get to those points where he's going to have to defend Giannis because no one can better than him, obviously, but he doesn't have to hold Giannis to 15 points. Like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a 4 though.
No.
Who's your pro comp for Chet?
I literally wrote down Evan Mobley / Kristaps Porzingis. If I could share my screen, I would show you all that because we talked about both of them. But like, he plays similar to Kristaps on offense, I think. Plays similar to Mobley on defense. I'm not saying he's as good as a defender as Mobley. Like, he won't be right away probably, but it's hard to give a comp for a guy like that. Like, he's a freak.
And you mentioned that Chet is in your top 2. You're still deciding between him and Banchero. Who's your top 5 in this draft? Your top 5 prospects?
There's definitely like Jabari was kind of 1 for a while and like he's fluctuated, but they're like the top 3 and Ivy 4, like we'll call that top tier. Maybe Ivy's on like his own tier right behind the 3, but Chet, Banchero, Jabari Smith, Ivy. And I had AJ Griffin for a while, especially because he's only gonna be a young, like 18 when he goes to the draft. But I like AJ. I think he's gonna end up being like 7-8 on my board at this point. I think Duren is jumping, and I think Benedict Mathurin is jumping. One of those two guys will be a 5.
Wow, Jalen Duren, you think he's making the top 5?
Like, you watch him, he has like a Dwight Howard-esque role in college, at least, obviously. And he's going to be 18 also. Like, he's so young. And I think kind of like Chet, like, you have to trust in your player development and your front office a little bit for a guy like that that's so young. And we see guys like DeAndre Ayton that went 1, obviously, where I think Duren is maybe just as good as a prospect, close to as Ayton was, like very, very similar roles they're going to play. And Ayton is so pivotal on their run to the finals last year. And like, you see guys have a really good role like that. And if you can put them in the right position, in the right system, like, it works so well.
That's a good analysis. And because Jalen Duren, 6'11", 250 pounds, you can't teach that. I still think he needs to work on his feel of the game more. But like you said, he's young. So let's do something fun here. You mentioned the top 5 prospects in Banchero, Chet, Jabari, Ivy, and Duren cracked the top 5. Let's pick some teams that best fit these players and projecting them in the NBA. So starting with Jalen Duren, in my opinion, I think OKC is the best fit for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think OKC I think he would be perfect for them with Giddey, SGA, a rim runner, a guy who can run the fast break. He can also be a guy who can he doesn't need the ball a lot. He doesn't need the ball to be that effective defensively. They need a big. They're really small. So I think that would probably be like that's why when you asked me, like, do you think Duren can go 5? I was like, it really just depends on the team that is picked up. I think if OKC, if outside of 4, even outside of 3, because I don't think they go Ivy.
They don't go
It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I think if they get 4, 5, 6, doesn't matter. They're gonna pick Duren probably no matter what, because that's a guy who fits them.
Do you think the Pistons are a squad that he would fit, that his play style would fit them also? I feel like right now I understand you have Marvin Bagley, who's been playing very well at that position, but regardless, you still need another big to add.
I think if all 3 of those guys are off the board, they don't go big. They go guard.
You think
I think they would take Ivy early too.
Yeah, I think because you got Cade and Sadiq Bey can play 1 to 3
for sure.
So if you get Ivy, you could put Cade at the 1, you could play Ivy at the 2, Bey at the 3. It doesn't really matter. So I think if Paolo, I don't know how to say his first name. Paolo, Chet, or Jabari are gone, Ivy, they're picking Ivy no matter what.
Okay.
Or a guard. Ivy, Griffin, Johnny Davis, maybe. They're picking a guard.
So the center's not essential to them.
If it's not those 3 guys,
also.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Duren, like Isaiah Stewart. Too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
And he plays similar, like he plays strong. I think like they'd rather prefer a guy like Chet or Jabari who plays like a 4 to pair with the 5s if they were to go like that route in the front court. I think Duren, like, he's super young too. He's 18, like goes well with Thunder. The Spurs also, like, there's been a lot of rumors of, like, DeJounte like going off, whatever. They drafted Josh Primo last year, who's the youngest player in the league now, and they would do something similar with Jalen Duren. I think like chances they get in the top 5, maybe probably slim. They're pushing for a play-in right now, but
you're like a game
if
and
they
a half
were to
out.
get in there. Yeah, if they were to get in there and like trade back to 4 or 5 or something like that, in whatever situation, I would love Duren to be on the Spurs.
So Jalen Duren, now next prospect, Jaden Ivey. What is the best team fit for him? I'll start with you, Ryan.
I would say the Pacers probably, although I'll say the Pacers because of, first of all, he's from there and like he's his hometown kid and they need like a superstar, I think like that, trying to next to Tyrese Halliburton. But they also still have Duarte, Buddy Hield, but they could run a small ball and play 3 of those guys and have 4 or 5 really good guards. So I'll say the Pacers.
That's
interesting. And you, Riv?
I'll probably go Detroit. You know, I think, first of all, for Detroit, how quickly they'll be back in if they can just upstart that rebuild process. And then for Ivy to bring in another ball handler, somebody else that can go get a bucket alongside Cade. And you've seen lately Bey developing into his own as a scorer and a defender. I think Ivy would be perfect right in that role. You get 3 guys who are solid defenders. So I think Detroit would be my guy.
I feel like the Rockets really do need a true point guard. I like KPJ's game, but he's not a true point guard. God. He's not. Let's be real.
That was Ivy.
Ivy isn't a point guard, bro.
Yeah, he's not.
But you'd still, if you're the Rockets, you still need someone to really take that rank.
So you're gonna play Green? You're gonna play Green and Ivy?
Number 2. Yeah, why not? You need to listen.
No.
Scoring is something that the Rockets.
You just want buckets.
What's wrong with that? Especially in this NBA, right?
I was actually looking at Tankathon, and really, Ivy doesn't fit with a lot of these teams. I don't think he fits in Orlando or Houston.
No, you can't go to Orlando.
OKC, unless they get rid of Dort.
But is it wrong to say if Orlando has the pick and Ivy is there?
Detroit is the perfect fit.
But I'm saying if Orlando has the pick and Ivy's there, they don't just say, we think Ivy can be better, and just move off of the 2 guards?
What pick? At what, like, if it's 4, then maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Orlando has 4, they already have, you said they have Wendell. You just told me he's going to be this, that, and the 3rd.
You think they move off of Suggs that early?
No, Suggs is going to be the one. This is where they move off Cole. for Ivy.
Oh, Cole can go.
I don't know.
Cole can go.
I feel like the Magic can't draft another guard. If they do,
They
that's
can't draft
why I didn't
another,
say-
but they can't draft another forward either.
that would be embarrassing if they draft another guard.
I don't know.
They can draft another forward if it's Paolo
I was gonna say if it's Paolo, 100% you
or
can go that
Shet.
way.
Or
Chet.
Shet is
Chet
center
is
forward.
Suggs. They get the
I
high
feel like
score
they're
you-
log jammed it everywhere, bro. I really do feel like that,
It's
bro.
because they don't have any player that you could like bank on being a star for sure, and that's what's hurting Orlando.
I'd like
I
Indiana.
put my
if they
money
tra-
on Suggs.
I
I
like
put my money on him.
Indiana
to be elite.
though.
I like Indiana if they trade Brogdon.
That's the thing. Brogdon and Tyrese Halliburton both being there is what's.
No, I
holding
think
me from really
Halliburton
going
and
all in
Ivy
on
is
that.
dope. But I think Halliburton, Ivy, and Brogdon, I mean, I would like it, but I wouldn't love it. I feel like Halliburton, even Sacramento, Fox and Ivy.
No,
They can't. No way they could draft more guards.
No.
I swear, if
Bro,
they
I
draft
can't.
another guard, I'll be pissed.
No way.
And Fox
That's
They
needs
had
the
to
ball
trade
in his
Halliburton
hands.
because of that.
That's
Facts.
but the thing is, Ivy isn't a Halliburton. That's a real two guard. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody who's like he's not a Halliburton. He's a real two guard. So I think
And then the Davion pick also the last
yeah,
year.
no,
looks
that
like
pick is kind
ridiculous.
of that pick.
They
is-
needed defense. I understand it from
I mean,
that
you
sense,
need
but you're right. They
defense.
had so many guards. Too many guards.
next prospect, Jabari Smith Jr.
I don't even know.
The teams to pick from, I'll just talk about the top five because he's going to be a top 3 pick. Orlando, Houston, Detroit, OKC, Indiana.
I would go Detroit, OKC, probably Houston would be the 3 teams.
I think Houston's one.
No, I didn't put it in order.
Oh,
I was just saying those are 3. I think OKC doesn't have a 4 or 5 that's really bankable. Jabari Smith fits in right there. Detroit also. He's been good, but I think you can kind of
He's replaceable.
You still pick Smith at that pick. In Houston, obviously they don't
Indiana
have a real
doesn't
4.
answer the conversation at all. Especially
Oh, I'm
with
sorry.
I was gonna
Indiana is
say,
also another team.
especially with Miles Turner being on the trade block. That'd just be another avenue to
I mean, you
push
can keep
off.
him at this point.
You definitely could, but
You don't think Jalen Smith is similar?
Sticks. The king.
yeah, I feel like you just take the potential in Jabari at that point, though. I understand what you're saying, but Jalen, he's expendable. Yes, like you just got him. He's been playing
I don't know.
really
He's been
serviceable
playing
for
good.
you.
Jabari Smith is a tough player for me to evaluate.
Me too.
Like all these top 3 guys are pretty tough for me to evaluate. I think Jabari Smith, I mean, he's a stretch 4. To me, he reminds me offensively at least of like Jaren Jackson. And
Yeah,
he's
spot
gonna
on.
occupy like a similar role to him.
Yeah,
I don't know if that I don't know.
He's so slow. I don't.
Is he though? Like you watch him, he strides on. He looks like Giannis when he goes coast to coast half
Yeah,
time.
like
this guy's a
I don't
freak.
like him. I never had him at number 1. Like for me, he was never in my eyes the number 1 pick. But I do think like in the right situation, he could have that similar impact. But it's just a weird like. There was a lot of eyes on him. He did carry Auburn, so I guess the hype kept trending upward. But there's a lot of holes in his game. I think more than the other 2 in front of him or below him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he like athletically, I think he's exceptional, and he's a really good outside shooter. His percentages are good, but he shoots so many like off balance shots. But he's so good at them. That's why
Yeah.
like I see the Jaren Jackson thing. So it makes so much sense. But like I've come to realization like that is not as confirmed sustainable as like Chet's potential and Banchero's like is the lowest floor or highest floor, excuse me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I agree with that.
So I think for me, Jabari Smith, at least the best fit wise is I see Houston a lot,
Which
and I
makes
think
sense.
he's the perfect like Christian Wood replacement as well. If
Like
they end up moving off of him.
for the rest of the players, we're going to say Houston's going to be a huge spot because they need big depth. They
So-
need talent there.
Second, let's start with Paolo Banchero. For me, I think
Anywhere.
Detroit. I would love him in Detroit.
I like Orlando also. I understand they have a lot of big depth, but you pair that with the guards that they have, he could possibly elevate their play. You're not relying so much on Jalen Suggs to facilitate that offense. Or, excuse me, you're not relying on Jalen Suggs to be as prolific in that offense. And Paolo's going to open up the court for him a little
I'm
bit.
going to say this. Any of those 5 teams.
Facts. Facts.
It's his skill set. He's a big man, and he's probably the most skilled player in his draft.
You'd play him at the 4.
I would play him at the 4.
Would
You
you-
can play him at the 3.
Would
I'll
you
play him
kill
at
to
the
have
5.
him on the Pistons?
If he goes to with Cade,
Him and Cade, bro, that'd be nuts.
I can't even
I
imagine.
don't think like I don't love the Pistons fit. I really don't. His playmaking, you guys said it before, like facilitating has been so good, especially recently.
For sure.
He almost has like I don't want people to react this like a LeBron esque impact on like at the forward position of what he does for his team. And like him and Cade are he's gonna be ball dominant. Like I think he could be a superstar and ball dominant wise. And I don't like Cade plays like Luka. Like Cade is very similar, takes up a lot of usage. Like would they actually pair well together? Like I feel like the Pistons wouldn't take Banchero at 1 or 2.
That's interesting.
I don't
So
know.
you
I
think
feel like,
I feel like
if they had the choice,
that
they'd take in
duo.
Chet?
I feel like that duo could be the scariest duo years to come if it works
Yeah.
out.
I feel like that
Definitely
duo
good.
reminds me of Tatum and Brown.
And for the Pistons,
Really?
it's marketable
Yeah.
too. The Pistons, who have been a franchise that struggled with bringing fans in, you have two of the more exciting young players in the NBA with Paolo and Cade. That sells tickets.
I mean, the reason why I think it's okay because Cade can play off ball. Like he even though we want him with the ball at all times, we want him. Obviously, we want, but he
'Cause what else is their option?
Yeah, but he also will play off ball if need to. He can play off ball. So if Paolo, thank you. If Paolo does get opportunities, Cade is fine being that secondary option. But I think that dynamic of them two, because they like Paolo's skill set is so ridiculous. That dynamic could be like crazy because now you done got your 1, you done got your 3 and your 4 for the future. In Cade, Bay, and Boncaro. So I would like Detroit for them. I think Detroit that should be the guy for them.
My dark horse pick is Portland.
Oh wow!
Yep.
If they like sneak up in the lottery, you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't they have 2 picks?
They're projected to have the 7th overall pick. And right now the pick that is from the Pelicans would go to them, which is projected to be 9th right now.
Portland could be.
If they move up in the lottery,
I
think
take those 2 picks and try and move up.
I think Paolo probably with Dame, because I think they're going to keep Dame. I don't feel like they're trading him. So with Dame, Simons, and team they have, Boncaro.
They need to get youthful, in my opinion.
I think they'll probably pick Adrian Griffin.
If they get in the top 4, if they get
No, because they got 2 picks. I'm talking about like 8 or 9.
Oh yeah. If they stay where they are.
I think Griffin has top 4 potential, but I don't think he'll get picked top 4. Like I think he'll kind of be like the Kuminga of this draft. Kind of like his ceiling is so ridiculously high, but he's not going to get picked to where his ceiling is. It's what he is right now.
And now the number 1, Chet Holmgren. What's the best team fit for him? Ryan, what do you think?
I think for me, it's between the Pistons and the Magic.
For sure.
I think the Magic makes a lot of sense. We talked about like how they don't have a guy at 4 or 5 or like that's our dude. And I think him and Suggs being high school teammates is like it's a little thing, but they were literally like the duo for a couple of years and like they did everything together. They're from the same place. Like it makes a lot of sense when you get a guy. They have so much youth and so much talent on that roster. Like the Magic could be good, and similar on the Pistons. I think the Pistons will be good faster than the Magic, especially with a guy like Chet, who like lives off ball and offense. So you can fit him into so many different systems as long as you have a spot at the 4 or 5, but you have to play next to like a good, really good, like strong player like Isaiah Stewart. I think is a good example of that.
Yeah, that's good.
I think Detroit. I think definitely with Isaiah Stewart down low, he can play the 4. Even having Cade, having Bay or Orlando, of course, because like you said, Suggs and Chet in high school were dominating like religiously. Minahana, I think that's what their name was in high school.
Yep.
And even in AAU, they played together sometime too. So I think they've been teammates for a while. Bringing that connection back is great. In Orlando, they have a guy at the 5 that they're comfortable with in Wendell. And then with him, you got him, Jonathan Isaac.
It doesn't force Chet to play the center position
and
either.
That defensively, that could be a crazy trio.
Isaac and Chet, oh my God.
If Isaac finally plays, Wagner is almost going to have more points to him.
Imagine a starting lineup of Suggs. I don't know who's the 2, but whatever.
Wagner.
You would put Wagner at a 2?
I don't hate
That's
that.
a
He's
crazy
big, but he
lineup.
can play the 2.
Suggs, Franz, Isaac, Chet, and Wendell.
Offensively, got some work to do, but defensively,
Defensively.
woo,
That's a crazy defensive
And
lineup.
I actually love the Orlando.
They could put out the death
think that's
lineup if
perfect.
they got to lock somebody down.
I like that a lot. And then maybe Cole Anthony is the 6th man too, because
just
I
thought of
feel
that.
like that's his best role.
Yeah,
Cole Anthony, he can't be a starter in my opinion.
I agree with you. I think.
So Ryan, quick question for me: who's your 3? Like, I know the March Madness has been a lot. It's been hard to keep track, of course, but I'm sure you do it because you love it. Who's going to be your 3 sleeper picks if you had to pick 3 in this March Madness? Like guys who have upped their stock, or guys who people don't pay too much attention to, but can make an immediate impact coming to NBA.
Yeah, I feel like there's always guys that like will jump into like the mid or early 2nd round from like being like kind of off radars that are like usually older, experienced guys. Like Jalen Williams in Arkansas, I think he's done a great job, like really high motor. I think he's worth like a 2nd round pick pretty early. I think jumping into like 1st and like kind of higher guys, Mark Williams has been ridiculous.
That's a fact.
Like he's been good all year, but he's been great. And like without him, they might not have gotten to the Final Four, dude. They might not have gotten past the 2nd round against Michigan State. I think he's been awesome. He has got elite athleticism and like high motor work rate. I think Kennedy Chandler only played twice, but the game against Michigan, I saw so much I love from him. And like I had him sneaking into like 30 almost going into the tournament. And I saw literally one game and like, there's just realizations when you watch guys like that. I'm like, he was really good. I could see him like running an NBA offense in the future, kind of like Trey does, but like, cause they're both small, quick guards, maybe not as good. Obviously it's hard to be like that. And then Benedict Mathurin is the last one on Arizona. Like he just absolutely skyrocketed.
I've been so high on Benedict Mathurin for so long. Like he's just, I don't even want to.
He's a freak, dude. He is a freak. He's an NBA wing. You watch him like that's an NBA athlete. He's a freak.
That is that. I don't even want to I'm start fantasizing.
I said I would do illegal things for the Hawks to be able to get him somehow. Illegal things.
Yeah. Like,
so you're an Atlanta Hawks fan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I see y'all. I've seen some of the Knicks stuff before. I'm ready.
So who would you go? Like if you had a top pick, who would you go?
For the Hawks?
Yeah.
Like 1, 2, or 3, you're saying?
No, I was let's say you go like 7 or 8, 9.
If like whoever I wanted to be there, Mathurin makes so much sense. I don't know if he'd be there that late. Otherwise, I'd say 7, 8, 9 might be early, but either Jeremy Sohan or Tari Eason, like they play like Draymond, Scotty Barnes-esque roles in their own ways. I think Tari's more like DeAndre Hunter kind of, especially defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Sohan, I love. Like he is literally like Scotty Barnes and Draymond. I think we need a guy like that, especially defensively, because like we struggle so much. And we need a guy that's just going to impact winning and nothing else. Like that's all I care about. So Sohan would be the guy there.
So like you're looking for like win now guys, like guys who just impact winning.
Yeah, like the roster's good. Like even though with the slump from last year, even if we get 9th or 10th and lose in the play-in, like it's still a team that you can be like that can be a top 5, 6 team in the East next year and like win another playoff series. So I would say keep pushing to win as fast as you can with this team. Yeah.
Is Nate McMillan fired for you?
God, probably. If we don't win a play-in game, then probably yeah.
Okay,
like,
I see.
So
he had a one good run that gave him the job, and like that's a short amount of time, so you're gonna be on a short leash because of that. I feel like.
You think so? I feel like he came in immediately last season. The culture changed. You guys just started to really play better basketball. You had a great playoff run. To have a disappointing season this season for sure. You're gonna move off after one season.
If we lose a play-in, like I go back and forth because like the culture is decent, but like in game he's been miserable. The rotations he runs half the time is awful, especially defensively. Like it is so painful to watch. Like what does this team talk about and work on and study? Like it's clearly not what we need to win games. Like it pisses me off. So
like the defensive personnel as a whole for you guys is already sketchy. You have to rely on offense to win you majority of your games. So to a degree, I understand of being upset and your adjustments aren't there, but if the personnel's not there as a whole, how much blame can we really put on McMillan?
Right, but he'll run like I'm just throwing examples, trying to remember things. Like he'll take DeAndre Hunter and Capella out at the same time.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
How in the world
Fair
are
enough.
we gonna play defense? Like how is that gonna happen? And he'll leave them in. He'll leave Bogey and Herter and Trey all on at the same time for minutes and minutes. And like just call a timeout or anything, please.
Mm-hmm.
It's so frustrating.
Defensively,
sometimes.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's rough.
Although you're a Hawks fan, I have some sympathy for you because I know that you're a Jets fan and I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just whatever.
But we're gonna have a big time year. Zach, big time year too.
100%. Zach's a baller, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't do like football film and stuff like that like I do basketball, but I watch enough to know, like, understand about Zach and see his game. Like, I went to every single game this year. Like, he is going to be in this league for a long time. And wait till we get AJ Brown and we're good.
You must have been so excited when you were there for the Tennessee game.
That was awesome. That was one of the best Jets games I've ever been to. That was crazy.
That was the one game I didn't go to.
Oh my, what a fold.
Oh my gosh, bro. I was so mad. Yeah, I was at home like celebrating though.
Of course. Losing my
Although
mind.
the Bengals game, looking back on it now, the Bengals game was like just as good, if
Isn't
not
that
better.
another game you didn't go to?
Because Mike White was playing. I was like, I'm not going to go to a Mike White game.
I actually went to the game, the Dolphins versus the Jets, where Joe Flacco was your quarterback, and that was a decent game until the fourth quarter.
I worked at the Bills and the Jets game opening game.
Tough.
The Jets choked in the second half.
Facts.
Talking about 2019.
Yeah, Josh Allen was pitiful. I was like, this guy ass. Like I was watching this, I was like, well, he's trash. Like, because I was on the field working, I'm watching, and I'm like, dude, this guy sucks. Like, it's just like when you see things differently, like when you're there, you really start to think like, nah, he really might be garbage. Like the numbers ain't really, the numbers ain't really telling me.
3 years later, now we're talking about one of the best
he
QBs in the league.
Development is crazy.
Development is because he was garbage that day. Like,
right now, who did you say was going to ask for a trade? You said Debo, right?
Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
He's not asking. It's a potential that he's going to want a lot of money, and Niners are in talks of potentially trading him.
I feel like
to play somewhere else.
the Jets are in the market for every single big time wide receiver right now,
and especially with LaFleur as your play caller, that's exciting.
I got just one more college question. I'm sorry, I was fantasizing. Villanova, Kansas, two guys that I like on opposite teams. You know, these guys, I make them in 2K all the time. I draft them all the time, and I just edit them and whatnot. Ochai Agbaja, I don't know how to say his name. You know who I'm talking about, though.
You got it. You got it right.
Okay, and then Colin Gillespie. Do you think these are two guys that are going to get drafted or that can make any immediate impact? Because I know Gillespie, he's a little older. But thank you. I appreciate you. I know Gillespie, he's a little older, but I feel like he can have, like, what impact Davion Mitchell was supposed to have in terms, because I feel like he can run an offense. He's able to space the floor, and defensively he's really solid. He doesn't push the pace. He's kind of like Peyton Pritchard, but a little bit older, a little bit more wiser. So do you think these are two guys that can get drafted in the? Because I know this draft isn't strong like that, but maybe in the late first.
Ochai is like to me, a style storyline rise, like that's Chris Duarte, same exact kind of thing, and he's gonna be a top 15 pick, probably top 20, because teams that draft, like the Hawks are a good example actually. Teams that are like decent that fall into like the late lottery maybe, or like 10 to like 20. There's a lot of good teams. The Warriors had 2 picks in the top 14 last year, like, and they need win now guys. Like that's a guy to get you buckets right away. He plays both ends of the floor, like really good impact, just like Duarte had, especially in the first like 2 months. He's fallen off a little bit, but I think he'll get drafted high. And then Gillespie's tough. He's older. I think Ochai is like 23. Gillespie's probably like 23, 24 soon. I don't know. It's tough because like Villanova, look at the guys they produced though, all upperclassmen, all really experienced. I love like the Brogdon model is what I call it, because Malcolm Brogdon, like the experienced college guard that like everyone overlooks. Jalen Brunson was the same exact way. DiVincenzo's a little more athletic, but Kyle Lowry years ago from Villanova. So, like, could they produce a guy like that? It's probably worth a second-round pick. Like, why not? But he won't go too high.
Yeah.
Do you think that Colin Gillespie is more Jalen Brunson or Ryan Arcidiacono?
Arcidiacono?
Yeah.
In college, Arcidiacono, because he's just, like, he's more of a winner than just a good player. Like, Brunson was National Player of the Year when he was in college, when they won that national title. In the NBA, I don't think he'll be as good as Brunson. I think he'd be better than Arcidiacono. It's not hard to say, but I think he'll be better than him.
And one more question. This is a Jersey question. Do you think Javon Quinley is going to get drafted in the first or the second? Where do you think he fits in the NBA?
If he goes, he'll be second. But like he's like him, the whole entire Alabama roster, I feel like it's just guys that you can just throw into a second or third rotation in the NBA and they'll be fine. They'll score, especially him. He'll be a second round pick if at all, though he won't go first. But those are tough guys. Even like Jaden Shackelford and even JD Davison, like he'll probably stay another year, but like those are like they're hard to figure out. And like where do you place them? And it reminds me of like Trey Mann, kind of the Thunder, where you kind of just put him in the second rotation and let him cook a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Those are all good. We want to thank you for taking the time out to be on the show. That was Ryan Hammer on the Pick Aside podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all, of course, and I can't wait to hear some more of these hot Jets takes. Zach Wilson MVP years. You know
gotta say that's this
all
guy
season.
over here.
You said that Zach Wilson MVP?
No,
I'm not.
I ain't say that.
No, I'm just that's
It's coming
soon.
soon.
When we get AJ. When we get AJ Brown, it's a wrap. It's all
when
good.
we get AJ, it's Zach Wilson.
You know, it's funny. I thought you
Offensive
weirdly
Player of the Year.
Zach Wilson kind of sounded like Tua Tagovailoa.
You are a Denver fan.
Hell no.
And you talk about Tua more than Russell Wilson.
Tua is so
Well,
average.
it's just they're in the division, so that's why we have to talk about
Tua
it.
is so average.
Listen, the Broncos are winning the Super Bowl. Simple as that.
You think so?
Yeah, done. Lock it in.
That's a stinky take.
Whatever.
Whatever.
All right, we want to thank you again, Ryan. Thanks for being on the show.
Yes, sir, man.
I appreciate y'all. Have a good one, all
All
right?
right, man.
We're back with This Week in the NBA. So I'll start off first with This Week in the NBA. So Kyrie Irving, now the vaccine mandate has been lifted. He can now play home games which I think is huge for the Nets going forward, especially in the playoffs. He said he's been pinching himself to play home games. But my This Week in the NBA that directly correlates to Kyrie Irving is that he wants to re-sign with the Brooklyn Nets. And I know that we've heard this before when he was in Boston, but I think he's serious this time. And I think he's going to re-sign with the Brooklyn Nets. And you look about what he said, I think just shows that he's going to re-sign. It has always been about being comfortable, loving where I'm at, and I love it here. Once that summertime hits, I know we'll have some conversations, but there's no way I can leave my man number 7 anywhere. He's talking about
Didn't
Kevin
he tell
Durant.
Boston I'm never leaving you guys?
If you guys will have me, I'll be back.
The difference is that I think Kyrie is really close to Kevin Durant. And because of that, I think he will not leave
This
Kevin
is a
Durant.
stabbing in the heart.
He won't do that to KD. He also said, and as we build, as you see me playing with some guys I've had some relationships with in the past, and this is the recipe for success, when you have guys that you've known for a while, young guys that are willing to listen, and then a front office that's willing to do what's necessary in order to build this thing for the long run. So that's the mindset. That's where I'm at. I think the Nets, even this year without Simmons, can be scary. The Nets have said they are planning on him playing, but I think next year with Kyrie playing home games, KD, Simmons being, back to who he is, I think the Nets can be one of the best teams in the East. And I don't think Kyrie is leaving. He's going to re-sign and remain a Brooklyn Net.
I hope he does because it makes the league fun. It keeps teams competitive, and that would mean the East has like 8 or 9 really, really good teams.
And what's a better situation than what he has in Brooklyn right now?
He's playing with his guys.
Exactly.
So, shout out. I hope he does. I really do hope he's truthful and he stays. For me, NBA. I got sent this video and I just couldn't breathe. Like it was just like honest to God, I felt good about myself. Paul George is shooting. He's participated in 5-on-5. And that's why I said I was losing in fantasy because my boy is back and it's in perfect tune because the Clippers have been struggling a little bit. And even if he doesn't come back this season, I'm glad he's back to being healthy, shooting again, because this team is the favorites next year to win the title. And if not the favorites next year to win the title, they're
Strong
top 3.
contenders.
Yeah, I think Kawhi fully back next year, Paul George fully healthy, Norman Powell fully healthy, Reggie Jackson, Zubac, Batum, we got Ty Lue. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a scary fantasy. But I'm just listen. I'm just glad Paul George is back to playing, practicing.
Nice.
I even reposted him yesterday because he was like, I'm back, baby. And I'm glad. So shout out to Paul George.
I'm happy for you, bro.
I'm excited.
All right, my This Week in the NBA, LeBron James officially becomes the number 2 scorer in NBA history.
Congrats.
Now, give him an applause, man. That man deserves it. Shout out to you. You've been a true inspiration to the world. God bless you. I'm very happy for you. Now,
You think he's more important than Martin Luther King?
no,
What the fuck was that?
of course not.
I just thought you would say yeah.
Come on now. I'm a little bit more smarter than that. But now some comments came out from Draymond Green that if LeBron were to pass or have the chance to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the day that the Warriors happen to be playing, Draymond Green said that he would sit out that game and go watch LeBron
It's
pass
funny he's
Kareem.
saying that after having 2 points against Orlando.
Yeah, that's rough after he violated them when he
really
played
funny.
like absolute doo.
Guy needs to worry about other things.
So regardless of that fact, do you guys, or what are your guys' thoughts on him saying that he would miss his own game and go to LeBron's? For me personally, before you guys give your input, I understand it. It's history. This is something that we will not see for decades, possibly 2 decades. This is something that we really need to marvel at. We really need to take in and really not take for granted. And this is someone in a position where he has that luxury of sitting in any NBA game and being very close friends with LeBron James on top of that. I respect this. I can acknowledge the fact that, yes, you're putting your own team's success in the back burner, but at the same time, this is something that we may never see in our lifetimes ever again.
I think that's ridiculous. I think that's insane, and I think I would understand it more. Let me add context. I don't want to just say you're being dumb because you're not being dumb. I think if this was October, November, December, I would understand it. But I think being as if it's getting to that time.
LeBron's not passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for a minute.
That's what I'm talking about playoffs. It's getting to that time. The playoffs is right here. It's getting to that time. You just got back. You've been struggling. Steph is out. There's some games that you need to win. The chemistry has to get better. You guys haven't been playing good. I think if the situation was they were kind of okay in a good position, this was maybe early in the year, but now it's like right now, competitive basketball, you have to start winning a little bit more. You have to start gearing up for that playoff time. I think the timing is what makes it ridiculous in my mind. Not what he's doing, but just the timing. It's not right now is not the time. I get it, LeBron greatness. Yes, of course, we should all celebrate that. But I think the timing is boom, it's about to be playoff time, bro. We got to lock in. He's not your friend right now because it's playoff time.
I know what you're saying.
Not your friend.
That's a different perspective that I didn't think about. That's fair.
I think the comment came out of nowhere. I don't really care if
Out
Draymond,
of nowhere? I mean, he just passed.
I really don't care if Draymond goes to see LeBron and supports him, especially if it's a regular season game.
Facts.
It might be a meaningless game for the Warriors, and why not go support LeBron James? I think it's fine if he does that. I really don't really care. But I think Draymond Green, ever since he started podcasting, it feels like his production has dipped.
LOL.
Hasn't he been podcasting all season?
I don't think also. I think it
got
started
bigger.
like in the middle.
It got
of the
bigger
season.
when he got hurt.
So now the podcast is bigger than basketball.
Because he actually got a
You noticed that Duncan Robinson also hasn't been his best.
and Draymond got a
too.
deal with I think TNT or something like that while he was hurt, like to be on that. So he got another deal, a sports deal. So
Interesting. What is it about streaming and podcasting?
He's really
that
good at it,
decreases your level of play outside of Karl
now
Anthony
working
Towns?
out, while you in there filming and shit, you should be on that gym.
Ben Simmons, Anthony
I feel
Davis.
like I was watching a Draymond Green podcast with Joel Embiid, and I know that mainstream media can be very annoying, especially with the narratives they spew.
Facts.
And I guess from the player's perspective, they feel like sometimes they try to
Attack their
make
characters.
tension.
Facts.
They create tension towards players. But what I found odd about Draymond Green's podcast with Embiid is that when they were talking about Simmons and Draymond's like this to Embiid, I hate when the media tries to stir up some controversy. And then he's like, "Well, Joel Embiid, do you think that Ben Simmons left? Because what happened with him? Like, why are you guys clashing?" Basically asking him. He tried to ask Embiid a question, and he was like, "Oh, this is for my own personal reasons. I want to know." And I'm like, bro, like you try to stir up controversy right there. How are you gonna talk about the media?
I feel like
doing it when you're doing it right now.
Because if it was his personal, he would have asked in private.
And that's fair. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I feel like it's not a secret that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons have issues.
But Embiid said they don't.
Really?
Yeah, Embiid said on the podcast they don't have issues.
That's
He
pretty
has no
interesting.
problem.
But
He said
even-
from his side, he has no problems with Ben Simmons. No issues.
I feel like that's a BS
But
statement.
Draymond Green, what I was alluding to was that he literally was like, "Oh, I hate the media because they do this," and then he does it like a minute later. It's I don't know. It's
No, fair.
hypocritical.
I agree.
I guess it's about who's it coming from and not the actual message nowadays.
Yeah,
right?
because since it's coming from a ball player, it's more respectable than a media guy.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Did you guys see Pau Gasol's interview with JJ Redick?
I did not.
I
it a good
actually
one?
saw it. Yeah, it was really good. I love Pau Gasol.
Oh, absolutely.
He's one of my favorite
Laker
players
legend.
ever.
He's a really good guy.
So I was watching Game 6 of the 2013 Finals yesterday at like 2 a.m, and
While you were
a thought came into my head. I was with a friend and I asked him this exact same question as well. The original Miami Heat Big Three was supposed to be LeBron, D Wade, and Carmelo Anthony. Do you think the Heat win championships with Carmelo? Because I don't think they beat the Spurs any year with Carmelo Anthony. The defense Chris Bosh played.
Though.
I agree. The defense Chris Bosh played on Tim Duncan,
was great.
Great.
him as a rebounder,
Great.
he just fit with them better. Carmelo Anthony would have got exposed defensively. Offensively, it would have been a tougher fit.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they win championships or have a bunch of success with Carmelo.
It would have been year 3 together. So maybe they would have been able to adjust their roles accordingly.
I don't think they have no answer for Spurs though.
That's fair. The Spurs were a great
But I
put
do
together
think they beat OKC still. Do you think they beat Dallas? Now with Melo and D Wade?
That's the difference because D Wade
was
that
playing
20
great. He was phenomenal.
unbelievable.
You couldn't guard Dirk, and Melo's not guarding
facts.
Dirk.
Well, why didn't put LeBron on him? I thought he was that versatile demon.
Dirk didn't. Chris Bosh wasn't covering Dirk and doing anything great. In that
I know, but
sense either.
Carmelo wouldn't have been better.
Fair.
Yeah, so I think they get one.
I think they
And
only
yes, I'm
beat.
ignoring
OKC.
that
They
LeBron.
only beat OKC. I
Yeah.
think they lose every other finals.
But it would be it wouldn't be 5 games though.
Chris Bosh was huge for them in that first Spurs series. 100%.
He was huge
you're
in
right.
general. Being able to take the back seat, be the third guy, be it comfortably, developing a better jump shot, and being a better defender at that time. People really sleep on Bosh as his third option. He wasn't like K-Love. Like K-Love kind of like he just got bad. But Bosh was always great defensively with them. He was always a great rim protector with them. So Bosh's importance for them. Melo isn't a third guy. He doesn't have the mentality of a third guy. He doesn't have the humbleness of a third guy, he's just not that type of person.
Do you think he would have been? Yes, he would have been the
He would have
third
been
best
the third,
guy.
for
Yes,
sure.
but in the sense of scoring wise, LeBron's so past
D-Wade
first.
was still that dude.
In 2011 and 2012, but 2013, that's when we really saw Wade.
Maybe
and his
Melo
body.
would have got into that second role after D Wade was diminished.
There's a
bit.
world where Melo could have been the leading scorer on the Heat.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is.
No. See, this with D-Wade and Bosh, they were able to play off ball and on
Yeah.
ball. When Melo can't really play off ball. At that time, he couldn't.
Fair enough.
So it's
Fair
like
enough.
that's why D Wade and Bosh were comfortable because they're like, we could play off ball.
That's a great point. You're 100% right because Melo was at his best when he got the ball in the post and was able to do what he needed
Melo
to
had
do.
a chance, bro.
I
That
was
year, he's supposed to
watching-
come play with us.
I was
Clown.
watching that game like, man, LeBron really choked down the stretch, and the Spurs should have won the championship.
Yeah, and they choked.
Yeah, they did.
Do
And
we-
it's just Ginobili missed the free throws.
And
cost
Kawhi.
them.
Do
we look at-
Kawhi and Ginobili missed
Where
free
Tim
throws.
Kawhi's
Duncan-
knees were clacking as he's
Tim
shooting those free
Duncan wins
throws.
that ring. How do we look at him differently?
6 rings, bro.
What, 4? I don't.
He's-
You think he would have won finals?
Do you think people are looking at him
Nah,
better than
TP.
TP, right?
TP.
Do you think people are looking at him better than Larry Bird?
Mm.
6-0 in the finals.
Yo, he has 6, but he doesn't have all the finals MVPs. I think Bird was more dominant in his short stretch. People barely look
It
at
was
Tim Duncan.
dominance, but we're talking like the longevity Tim Duncan.
I don't
Even then,
think so,
people's
because-
longevity, Tim Duncan people don't respect Tim Duncan's longevity
which
regardless.
is disgusting.
So it's like
It's because Duncan never had flashy numbers. He never
And
had.
he wasn't a flashy player.
He never had seasons where he was averaging like 28 and 13.
No, I know
I
what
think
you
that's
Like
a
he's
product
always
of
been
system.
like
It
a
was a
20,
different era.
21. He's always been like 21 and 13, 22 and 12. Like
But you want
he's
to talk
never,
about impact winning?
yeah,
that's
but he's
the
never had
epitome of Tim
seasons where he's
Duncan's
been
career.
like
I
27.
think that's more because of
28.
system though.
I agree.
There's been finals where he's putting up 25, 12, 14 and like 8 blocks.
He had that ability to do so if he needed to.
Yeah.
He was great. I think that you could have that conversation, Larry Bird and him, if he goes 6-0.
I think you could still have it now, honestly.
Ooh.
I would pick Bird over, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the career Tim Duncan has is crazy. Like, you can still have that conversation.
I know what you mean.
So on to the next topic. It's about the New York Knicks.
Oh God.
Tom Thibodeau right now is getting a lot of backlash from Knicks fans, and I think this is a trendy topic amongst Knicks Twitter. And Thibodeau called out the social media critics and was like,
Oh, wow.
"You guys are trying to nitpick this, nitpick that. You need everyone across the course of a season." And Thibodeau, sources have said that he's been offended by claims that he mistreated Kemba Walker this season. Tom Thibodeau has came out and he's, basically clapped back at Knicks Twitter. Knicks Twitter doesn't like him. I follow some people that are active in Knicks Twitter, and every other day I see spaces on Twitter about Thibodeau needs to be fired. People tweeting, "I can't wait until Thibodeau gets fired. The notification is going to hit different." So what do you guys think about this? And Riv, Thibodeau coached your team, won Coach of the Year for the Chicago Bulls. So I want to know your thoughts first, then I'll go because I'm a Knicks fan and I feel like
Yeah, no, he was actually
need to
important
give my
for
input
us. He was
on
actually important when he played.
So do you think the Knicks should fire Tom Thibodeau?
That's like I'm gonna give my take. I ain't gonna play the defense thing. I'm gonna give my take, but I think that's a tough question because it's like you look at it on one side. He goes to the Knicks, right, and he brings you guys like he brings the best out of Julius Randle. He gets you guys to the playoffs.
An excitement they haven't
Yeah,
witnessed.
it was
in
a lot
long
of
time.
excitement. Yeah, he got exposed in the playoffs, but it was a lot of excitement that year. The Knicks were on a ride high tail. Defensively, they were the best defensive team in the league. Like, they were great. But then you look at it on this end, they come back this year, they've added pieces, and they've got worse. So I think with Thibodeau, and in Chicago, Thibodeau, it was kind of like Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr. Thibodeau came in when the pieces were there already. He didn't start the trend with it. I think it was Vinny Del Negro, if I'm not mistaken. He the one who was there with.
Negro.
Thank you. Wow. Well, sorry.
You're good, man.
Yeah, no, because it's
I
spelled.
understand.
Yeah.
You're fine, man.
D Rose was D Rose's first coach. So it was like he was the first trend. They were bottom playoff team, and then boom, they Tom Thibodeau comes. They're the 1 seed. He changes it. He's kind of like stop laughing.
He made an honest mistake. He made an honest
It's
mistake.
just funny.
It is.
Yeah, I thought it was Vinny Dell. You know
It
what I'm
is.
saying?
It's all right, bro.
But he propels their ceiling. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
So I think with the Knicks, he's messing me up.
It's all right, bro.
I try.
It's all right.
It's just funny, bro. I'm just
I think nobody's ever corrected me too. That's the craziest part.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, they just keep letting me say Negro.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind of like insane. So now
Yeah.
I've been calling this guy Vinny Del Negro for so long, and now it's like, nah, it's Negro, bro.
there you go.
So but I don't think he should get fired. I don't think so. I think, but it's tough. I think because there's no better coach in the market right now, and I think as of right now, you got to give him another year based off what he did last year. I get and I know he's not great with young players. He's not. He hasn't been that. He's really not good. He's really a disciplined. We have a championship team here, Thibodeau. We need you to coach them. Okay, fine. They're veterans. Cool, I can do that. That's the type of coach Thibs is. But at the same time, after what he did last year and bringing you guys back, you guys had your most excitement in damn near a decade. I think he deserves another year to kind of like fix it and rewrite the ship. So I don't think Thibodeau should get fired. I think he should get one more year to try it again because you guys did try. You just failed. So I think he should get another year.
So Tom Thibodeau hasn't been good this year. His rotations have been bad. The lack of not playing young players when they play well is stubborn, to say the least. Obi Toppin, I think, has been deserving more minutes. He hasn't been giving it to him. And now that Randall has been out, Obi's been playing pretty well. You know, last 2 games, 18, 11, and 6, then 15 and 8 against Miami. Tom Thibodeau has made some questionable decisions. But I think firing him after this season would be reactionary, and I think the fan base, which is a fan base that tends to overreact over everything, is overreacting to Tom Thibodeau right now. I think Tom Thibodeau shot himself in the foot last season by being the 4th seed and exceeding expectations. When you exceed expectations, you now set a standard. And when that standard is not met, fans get irate. And that's what happened. We were the 4th seed last year. Everybody on the Knicks fan base thought that Kemba and Fournier were these huge pickups. Fournier is not better than Bullock and doesn't fit the Knicks better than Bullock. Bullock is playing amazing in Dallas. Kemba Walker was a disappointment. I think Tom Thibodeau was late to bench Kemba. He let him be out there a little bit too long. And we have to remember, last year, before Derrick Rose got traded to the Knicks, we were a 17-20 team. We were a team that was going to get a lottery pick or be in the play-in at most.
Yeah.
And Derrick Rose has been out this entire year. Tom Thibodeau couldn't count on Julius Randle regressing to not even an all-star level player. He was all-NBA last year. He's averaging 20 points this year, which is a 4-point drop-off from last season. RJ Barrett had such a rough start to the season. Derrick Rose has been hurt. Kemba Walker wasn't good. Fournier, defensive liability. There have been things that have been happening to the Knicks that are not Tom Thibodeau's fault, but he's being scapegoated for this season. With that being said, I think Tom Thibodeau deserves one more year. As long as he doesn't go out and trade all our young players, I really don't care. I don't want him to Minnesota us. I think he deserves one more year. And when looking at this situation, I was curious to find out how many coach of the years have been fired. And it's been 5. Avery Johnson.
Dwayne Casey was one.
Dwayne Casey is the one.
Avery Johnson won 67 games in 05-06 with the Mavericks. But they got eliminated in the first round.
That was Dirk's MVP season.
And that was the Warrior series, the We Believe Warriors. He got fired after that. George Karl, but he didn't. George Karl won 57 wins, 57 games in the 12-13 season when Denver traded Melo. They had a bunch of
they played the Warriors.
Good role players. Yeah, they beat them though.
No, they lost to the Warriors.
With Iguodala?
Yeah, it was a 3-6. That was Steph Curry's breakout. They beat them in 6 games.
Oh, but I found out that George Karl wasn't even fired by the Nuggets. He was fired by Sacramento later on. Byron Scott with the Hornets in 07-08 with Chris Paul won 56 games, then fired after the 09-010 season.
I like Byron.
Sam Mitchell also, Mike Brown with the Cavs, and Dwayne Casey recently with the Raptors. So there's only been 5 coaches that have been fired after winning Coach of the Year. And to me, it's like, I don't know if firing Tom Thibodeau is the solution. I really don't know if it is. We fired Tom Thibodeau. Now who takes his place? We might just have another mediocre coach. We might just go through another cycle like we did with Derek Fisher, Jeff Hornacek, and I'm forgetting some other names that were coaching us, like
Mike Woodson.
Kurt Rambis, Mike Woodson got fired before. He was a decent
coach.
Mike Woodson was good.
He was.
And he got scapegoated as well and then got fired. So for me, I don't think firing Tom Thibodeau is the answer, at least after this season. He deserves one more season after what he did in his first year. Next year, if it's disappointing, if the stubbornness is still there, which it likely will be, I would be on board with him being fired. But he exceeded expectations last year, and that really hurt his job security in the long run.
So instead of just reiterating what you guys are going to say, I'm just going to ask a couple questions. Let's say you guys do move off of Tom Thibodeau, right? Would you want a coach in similar stature of being a guy that's more team-oriented and not let me rephrase this actually. Do you want a player coach? Do you want someone that's going to just try and bring out the best in these players and be a little bit more lenient with these guys? Yeah. Or do you want someone similar to Tom Thibodeau that's going to be a hard ass that wants to do things a specific way but has to a degree a history of getting things done? What would you rather?
I think for me, like, player coaches are essential for young guys. You know, you look at Boston, you even go back and look at Brooklyn. I think with Kenny Atkinson, Ime Udoka, those are player coaches. Those are guys who, young guys tend to, you know, relate more to a player coach, a guy that they can relate to, they can talk to. So I think for the young pieces in New York, I think a guy like Thibodeau who's stubborn, you know, he's very disciplined, he's one way or the other. I think that's more for like a Jimmy Butler, like a veteran type of D Rose. That's why D Rose is always
loves him.
Yeah, because he understands. So I think a player coach would fit more for the Knicks young guys.
And you also have to think, before I get your thoughts, also you got to think it's New York. This is a different type of energy than everyone else. This is the media center of the world. This is like one of the more I don't want to say hip. Essentially, do you want that player coach or do you want a coach similar to a Thibodeau?
I feel like it doesn't. It matters. It depends on the direction. Like, if we're gonna go young and just rebuild and try to fight for the lottery and get higher picks, then I guess a guy like Kenny Atkinson would work. But I want to win, and I think Thibodeau can win with a roster that's more talented.
Do you think so?
I do think so. But back to the point about like Knicks fans being trolls, I think they are overreactionary. They're very stubborn. You look at every single star player that has come to New York. We have treated them like shit. Patrick Ewing, Carmelo Anthony, Julius Randle gave us a great season. Now everybody's turned their backs on him. So,
do you think that Knicks fans treated Melo badly?
Yes, 100%.
I feel a little differently, truthfully.
Now Knicks fans are like, "Oh, Melo, man, I miss those days." But I remember back then, Melo was the scapegoat for everything going wrong in New York.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
He's not a winner. He doesn't pass. He's shooting too much fadeaway jump shots and mid-range shots. He's settling. I saw it firsthand and how the fan base treated him, how the national media as a whole treated Melo in those final years. Because of that, that's why I don't Thibodeau deserves another year.
Okay.
And firing him after this year sets a bad precedent. Even Steve Kerr was like, if I went to New York, I would have been fired and out of the league in a year or two. But he chose the right situation. Coaches have to feel like the Knicks are the right situation, and it's not reactionary because a coach has to take a lot into account. I'm going to New York. If I don't win, now I'm going to get so much backlash in New York to the point where you might not even be able to go outside and eat with your family at a nice restaurant because Knicks fans are going to be screaming absurdities at you. And then you also have to take into account the roster. Can I win with this? So there's a lot to take into account. And I think if a coach sees that a coach of the year just got fired a year after winning the award, it sets a bad precedent for good coaches around the league to join the Knicks.
Fair enough, man.
So on to the final topics. That's our topic list for today, but we're going to answer some Patreon questions.
Do it.
So these two are both from RJ. Who is the NBA's best role player? In my opinion, it's Mikal Bridges. I think it's Mikal Bridges.
Ooh, that's a good one.
We're calling him a role player?
Yes. What is he?
I would say like a defensive star.
He is.
He's a role player, bro.
Alex Caruso is a role player.
No, Mikal Bridges is a role player.
I feel like my answer would be Alex Caruso.
Okay, so
Mikal Bridges is a role player. Let's not overthink.
Right, so if that's
He's
the
the
case,
third best player on the Suns. Would you agree?
Fourth.
I would say he's better than Ayton. He's more essential than Ayton is.
all right, so if that's the
I
case,
don't know.
Marcus Smart for me is the best role player.
That's a great
in
answer.
the NBA.
That's a great answer.
I would go Marcus Smart. I would think maybe maybe Bridges right now is a role player. I think he can be better. That's why.
What was the player that had the most potential that was drafted into the wrong situation?
This is a tough scenario. This is a tough question because there's a lot of rookies right now that are thriving.
I have
truthfully.
one. Tyreek Evans.
Oh, we're talking about all time? I thought we were just going off this most recent one.
I mean, this doesn't have a timetable on it.
Interesting.
I mean,
Tyreek Evans. Break that down. Why you feel like that?
I feel that way because as a rookie, he averaged 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He was efficient from the field, not from the three. He always had to work on his jump shot.
Mm-hmm.
His rookie year in Sacramento was the year that he had his highest usage percentage while being in Sacramento. Every year his usage went down and down. He came into the league as a point guard. Then Sacramento's like, no, now we want you to play the 2, now the 3. He never got to fully thrive as a point guard and keep playing that position. That was always his position, And a guy in their rookie season averaging 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, that's somebody who should ascend to an all-star.
Yeah.
But because he was in Sacramento, he was held back.
I feel like you could say something similar to Zach LaVine and him getting drafted in Minnesota, where we saw the potential in Zach LaVine, but never had that opportunity because there were so many other guys that needed the ball in front of him.
He tore his ACL, though.
That's true for sure, but even you look at it still, Jimmy Butler was there. Karl Anthony Towns were there. These are guys.
He was never there with Jimmy.
Oh, you're 100% right. That's the reason why they got him was because they traded Jimmy.
He averaged 19 in Minnesota, then tore his ACL, and he was out for the year.
It was Wiggins. It was Karl Anthony Towns.
And LaVine.
And was it Derrick Rose also at the time?
Jamal Crawford, Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, they was all in that team.
So I feel like now you look at it from that sense, it's like you traded LaVine, he comes to the Bulls, he shows you that he can be this dominant offensive force, and it also goes to the sense of why certain teams rush player development. We were talking about Wendell Carter and the Bulls and how do we think that the Bulls made a mistake in trading for Vooch? That's one of those scenarios where, the Bulls couldn't risk taking the time in player development and needed to make a move for a star. Similarly, where the Timberwolves needed to make a push for a legit star.
It wasn't Rose, it was Rubio.
Okay. So, but similarly, where the Timberwolves needed to make a push for a star with Karl Anthony Towns, with Andrew Wiggins, and they couldn't take the chance and wait on LaVine to get healthy coming off that torn ACL. So now we see him come to the Bulls, and he's completely changed the trajectory of his career.
I got one. Michael Beasley.
That's another great one.
That is a great
I
name.
think Michael Beasley getting drafted into Miami, which is typically the heart of Party City, being that type of player, being that type of talent, I feel like he needed to be somewhere where it's just all about basketball. I remember I was watching, it's just relatable, but not relatable. I was watching this Bun B interview about Lil Wayne, and he was talking about how Lil Wayne, they saw the talent early, and he was like, we see the talent, so what we're going to do is we're just going to lock him in the studio. He can do anything he wants to do, but it has to be in the studio, because if he leaves the studio, it's going to feel uncomfortable, feel weird, feel whack. So you want to have a party? Okay, do it in the studio. You know what I'm saying? You want to have your boys over, play some games? That's cool. Do it in the studio. And I feel like for Michael Beasley, like same thing how DeMar said he was drafted to Toronto, and he had all it was out there was the gym. I feel like for Michael Beasley, his career would have went a lot differently if all it was the gym. All he was just locked in, trying to get better. So for me, and another one, Marvin Bagley, for obvious reasons, because, Sacramento.
I feel like that was a decent spot for him to thrive in, though. It's just the players, the coaching situation was a rough one, and that's fair.
I feel like coaches is a big
He had
part.
the opportunity.
But I feel like if he had the coach and the opportunity
Fair
for
enough,
a big
man.
two,
I agree.
But Michael Beasley would be my number one.
And this is a TikTok question. Where would Damian Lillard rank right now amongst the top point guards in the NBA?
I still say he'd be top 5, but closer to 5 than
He's barely cracking the top 5 for me.
he's closer.
Luka's better.
So we're counting Luka as a one.
ahead,
Just so I
name-
can-
just
Trae
list-
Young is better. Steph Curry's better. John Moran is better. And if you count Harden as a point guard, he's better than Dame. And then Dame's not top 5. Dame is barely cracking the top 5.
I would probably have him at 5.
I would have
I'm
him
not
at
counting
5.
Harden as a guard, as a point
Okay.
guard. So I would have him at 5, 6. He's in the 5-7 range. Let me say that. He's 5 to 7. He's in that type of range. I feel like Trae Young has overlapped him. John Moran is probably going to overlap him. He already did it. Luka clears. Steph clears. So I think he's in the 5-7
I just don't
range.
want us to forget what Damian Lillard is.
I
when
know
he's on
what
the
Dame is,
court.
but Trae Young in his 3rd season in the NBA did something that Dame, it took him years to do, which was make the conference finals.
I want to say this, though. Dame is in the 5-7 range, but there isn't a scenario where he can get back into that 4 conversation. Dame,
Isn't?
No, is. There is a
Okay,
scenario.
all right.
He is still that type of talent.
He can't be top 3 though.
He can be.
Over Steph, Luka,
I think Steph,
and
Luka.
Trae?
Steph Luka, he could be 3 again.
over Trae.
He could be.
I don't think he can be over Trae.
He can be.
I feel
easily.
like it's tough with Trae because like the numbers,
Listen,
Trae's
and-
numbers are so ridiculous.
And what you're saying also makes sense. It took him years to get to where Trae already did it in his 3rd year, whatever it
Second
was.
year.
So,
No, third.
Oh, it's
but
third?
regardless of that, the season after, now his team's fighting for a play-in spot. At least Damian was consistently making the playoffs without a what?
The year Dame averaged 30, there wasn't a play-in.
They were 30-8. What year?
No,
When he went 30-8.
They
were in the play-in
They were
in the
really
bubble.
bad.
In
that,
the
that team
bubble.
was worse than this Atlanta team. You know that.
they had CJ McCollum still.
And Damian
Nurkic was there
but
still.
Dame
Nurkic
was
missed a lot of
Nah,
time.
you're right,
though.
you're
and Dame put the team on his shoulders every single
Trae
game.
is putting the team on the shoulders right now.
For sure, and
They're a
it's
10th seed.
not resulting in
The
anything.
East is tough.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that. He shouldn't be lower than Charlotte.
I think Dame.
He should not
I
be lower
agree
than
with
Charlotte.
I think Dame is barely cracking
think,
the top
and
5.
think about it. Aside from you, which you know, I'm sure if we included you in this, you'd have a stroke. But people had high expectations for the Hawks. For them to be where they're at right now is a complete utter disappointment, and that's not because of Trae Young. But you still have to credit team success, and when you evaluate a player to a degree,
That's not because of him, but it is because of him at the same time. He is a part of the defensive.
he's
problem.
a liability on defense.
So,
Agreed wholeheartedly.
But I'll give him like 20-80 blame. That's fair.
Okay.
So that's going to do it for episode 166 of the Pick a Side podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Pick a Side Pod on Twitter, on Pick a Side Podcast on Instagram, and on TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on Spotify or Apple
I
Podcasts.
don't know about the merch. Come on.
And
let
you
them
can
know.
also buy
There we
some
go.
merch
There
on
we go. Come on.
pickasidepodcast.com and read some really nice articles. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.